Hello, everyone. Sorry that took so long. I was having backstage issues. I'm still having issues. I'm continuing to have issues. That's also not what I wanted.
You're right.
That's okay. We all have issues.
My brain is just like, and I'm done. That's not what I wanted. Okay. Let's see if
Just
I can.
one of them nights.
It kind of is. And you know what? I blame the Rings of Power.
I was about to say the same thing.
It's brought a curse upon humanity.
It has. It's made everyone's brain shut
The
down.
quality of everything has gone down because of Rings of Power.
Basically, that is accurate.
I lost my sanity twice last night.
I don't blame you, Ark. Okay, so let me say hi to the chat really fast. We got a couple of people here, and then Ark, you can, since you are the only one who has watched this monstrosity, you can maybe give us some initial quick thoughts. We have Cajun Corey's in the house. Hello, thank you so much for being here. We have Mando. Hi, darling. I'm so sorry about the link confusion. So Miss Martin News is my hero. Yay. She let me know that I posted the backstage link as my tip link in the public chat. And I was like, crap. So I had to make a whole new link. So I really hope, and I deleted the other one. So the other one's not even findable. So I hope people are able to, if anyone else is confused, they're able to figure things out. So I'm sorry about that. So Dread Saber Phil is here. Rings of Power watch parties with Yellow Flash on Twitch make the cringe go away with the rage and hilarity. I bet. Oh, I can't even fathom. Brian is here. Hello. Thank you so much for being here. My mom is here. Hi, Mom. Thank you for being here. Thank you for support. Okay, I think. Oh, Ben is here. Hello. Howdy. How are you? Thank you so much for being here. So, okay, so that's all we got right now. My mom has already given me a $20 tip. Thank you, Mom. I'm gonna play a clip just because I want to. So we're gonna start off. We're gonna start off with some good Lord of the Rings. So here, Mom, this is for you.
Now is the hour. Riders of Rohan, oaths you have taken. Now fulfill them all to Lord and land.
Now, wouldn't it be
Very
better
nice.
if the person on that horse was a woman?
It'd
Like,
be so much
come
better.
on.
I feel so seen. I would feel so seen if it was Eowyn, not Éomer.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We should work at Amazon.
I'm perfectly fine with seeing Hammer.
Just start
Speak
music
for
like we're not
yourself.
even joking.
I love Eowyn, but you know.
Miss Martin Hughes is like, no. I finished the Count of Monte Cristo. It's good. Yay! Okay, now you need to go watch the movie. Go watch the movie. So, yes, I definitely. That's one of my top. We need to watch that. It's like one of my top films. I don't watch it all that often because it's like so deep, but I definitely need to start the book. So that is awesome, Jaden. I'm happy for you. Were you gonna say something?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, Ark, do you need to get anything off your chest before we dive into just talk about why we love Tolkien and not why we hate certain corporations?
So I'm gonna be as gentle as I possibly can. Don't watch Amazon's Rings of Power. Don't watch it. It is a waste of your time. It is a complete abomination to the canon and to Tolkien's Legendarium. There are now people trying to say that this is set in a different universe. They're trying to do what the Halo showrunners did to the Halo TV show, calling it a silver timeline. They are trying to do this without calling it a silver timeline. Do not let them call it a different universe. Do not let them compare it to Peter Jackson's films. I would even go so far as to say, don't even compare it to the Hobbit trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
It is that bad. It is awful what they have done to named characters. The Elf of Color is not bad, to say the least. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything.
He's just there.
He's just there. There was a couple lines that I was suspicious of. where he said that I'm not even going to get into it. We don't need to taint the stream with the what he said, but there were just a couple lines that I was suspicious of. Maybe that they had included their modern ideologies into a timeless classic, and I believe my suspicions to be correct, but I am not going to say yes or no until I watch episode 2 again. Because I would like to I like to at least view it twice before I speak on speak my mind and give my opinion on things, especially if it's a television or a movie. But all in all, please do not watch this. I'm still sticking with my my plan of canceling Amazon Prime after this, because I do not see this. I don't see episode 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 doing anything to help this series salvage anything. I popped into Friday Night Tights for a small bit at the beginning, and I remember Gary saying that episode 1 and 2 were filmed together, and it was pre-COVID. It was pre-coof. And that is why it looks the way it does. He says 3, 4, and 5 just keep going downhill from there, and then it goes all the way up 6, 7, 8, just like it's just downhill. It's constantly downhill. And I was like, okay, that's good information. That's all I need to know. So I bounced out of that, and I've just been replaying the 2 episodes in my brain. And I sent I quote tweeted Lofty, and I invited him to have a discussion about it because he gave it an 8.5 out of 10 and said it was excellent. And
of course he did.
I just don't see it. And I want to hear his explanation on why he gave it such a high score. And I see him, like, of course, because everyone calls Lofty the bad take king. They always say that he has the worst takes on the entire internet. They always say he's contrarian. Of course, he's getting attacked and he's getting memed to death. Like, he's constantly being the center of attention right now because he is saying that it's the first 2 episodes were good.
Yeah.
And I want to know why he gave episode 1 and 2 8.5 out of 10, because I did not. If anything, I would give it maybe a 1.5 or 2 out of 10, because there were things that I enjoyed, but there was so many things that I did not like. The opening soundtrack, the opening sequence, written by Howard Shore and composed by Howard Shore, like, that was nice. But Bear McCreary, I love him as a composer.
Yep.
He did not do a good job composing this music, composing this soundtrack. It does not sound like Lord of the Rings.
He's never sounded like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He did really good. He did really good with Godzilla, King of the Monsters. The Walking Dead used to be my favorite show, and he did a lot of great stuff in The Walking Dead that really, like, moves you to tears. Really just perfect delivery on some of those moments. But never did I hear any of those great scores and think, this guy would do a good Lord of the Rings, like, ever. And and so I didn't even know Howard Shore was connected to this, so I kind of want to hear that one. But Bear's just not the right choice for this.
It's sad because when you're watching a film, the soundtrack is everything.
Yeah. Well, even like, even the Hobbit scores are not as memorable as Lord of the Rings, and I think that is largely because Howard Shore was too tired to go all the way to New Zealand, so he wrote it, and he didn't conduct it. He gave it to somebody else. So I think that that's even a problem with the Hobbit. That
is what Bear did because of the Coof.
Yeah,
he composed all of the soundtracks, all of the OST, and then he had other people direct it for their orchestras. And I will give it one bonus. There is a group of elves, and Galadriel is with them, going to Valinor. going to the Undying Lands. And when you get to the westernmost side of the Sundering Seas, there is a curtain of light, but it's surrounded by dark clouds. And then it separates, and the light separates the clouds, and a choir of elvish song springs up, and that was nice. That was nice. But that was only about maybe a minute, maybe a minute and a half of audio. That does not save an entire series.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know what was interesting is we just saw, even though I haven't watched the show, I feel like I've seen enough to decide, like, I would probably hate this show.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the clips we saw was we saw Galadriel take on that big creature thing that like smashed the guy up against the wall, and she just totally takes it out. She like gets this leap off of somebody else, slashes it after she does like this ninja midair move, and just totally dismantles this big creature.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, I thought of like, that was so terrible. Like, that scene is so terrible because there's absolutely no tension there. Like, she totally comes across as just like the Rey Skywalker of that situation.
Yeah.
Like, there's no tension because you never for 1 second think something bad is going to happen to her. She just totally dominates, in complete control. She has her badass moment and all that. And I kind of put that in contrast to like Eowyn's moment, her badass moment when she's taking on the Witch King. You know, and the Witch King swirling that big thing. Her eyes get all big. She's all intimidated. So again, we're seeing she's intimidated.
Yeah.
She's scared. And then after he's swinging that thing around, he shatters her shield and her arm is bad and she falls to the ground.
Yeah.
She's in agony. And like, again, tension. You're scared for her.
Yeah.
And then a hobbit comes in, stabs the Witch King in the back and helps her out.
Yeah.
That's what it took. Now compare that to Galadriel's moment. Again, that was supposed to be her badass moment, but there was no tension.
None.
The writing was just horrible. And she comes across just like this overpowered Mary Sue. It's just, so like both moments are supposed to be seen as like, this female is badass. She's powerful. But one is just so poorly written while the other one feels completely earned.
Yeah, for sure. No, and like that scene with Eowyn, I don't know. It's just, it's so special because we understand what she's fighting for. She's fighting to protect her uncle because she loves him so deeply. So I think
Her
that's
father.
her father
What?
figure.
Her
But
father
he's
figure.
like, he's
Yeah.
mostly, he is a father to her, but by
Yeah.
blood,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like, you know, just that scene, and I remember, we haven't gotten to this part, but I'm gonna spoil this for you. Like, Peter Jackson was like, another when they were filming that. And Miranda Otto was so tired by the time they got done. She was sitting there just like trembling, and there were tears streaked down her face. And like, so like one of the casting, she had to be carried off set. I think she had to go to the chiropractor immediately because every bone in her body was out of place. And I mean, she was so physically exhausted, and yet that translate on screen. So yeah, it was probably for her. She was like, "Why are you pushing me so hard?" But it translates on screen of like how like exhausted she was in that moment,
And how powerful it made it.
It did for sure. Like it did. It made it so powerful. But like the payoff for that scene was so wonderful. And then we have this Morford Clark. I had to go to therapy because the fight scenes were so intense. I was like, what, with a CGI green screen character? Grow up, sweetheart. So like, you know, like that scene with Eowyn it feels earned, and it does. The tension is so high.
Well, yeah, in every instance, it's basically like what separates this from the good Tolkien stuff is passion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because even when you're looking at the armor and like the amount of detail that Weta went into, and everybody to put that together, like it was the most important job they ever had. And then like their armor is literally drawn on. You know, we were talking about today how just with like the intro, the acting, the cosmetics, the outfits, it's weird how it looks like they've put so little effort into it, yet they spent so much money on the show and
like,
so much money on advertising.
Yeah.
Like how many advertisements have we seen today?
Yeah.
I jump on Twitch and it's Rings of Power. I turn on my Xbox, it's Rings of Power. I'm on YouTube, Rings of Power.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys could have at least tried when you were in development of the show if you're going to spend this much money in advertising. It's genuinely confusing.
Yeah, they could have done something better than go to the local Halloween store.
Yes, and get printed on fabric.
Yeah, I see that on kids all the time when they're trick-or-treating. It's a thing.
It is.
Every piece of armor and equipment looked like it was 3D printed plastic.
Yeah. Yes, JT, hold on real quick. So guys, JT actually did ARC's new logo. So if you guys are in need of anything like YouTube related, hit JT up. He also helped Megan with her thumbnails from the new reviews, and they are awesome. So if any of y'all need anything, hit JT up, because he's first of all, he's good people, and second of all, he's super talented and his rates are really good. So yeah, let's be sure we're like supporting the community, and JT is a good guy to go to if you need like logos, thumbnails, stuff like that. He's awesome.
Thank you for calling JT out. I'm going to throw his link tree into the chat.
Yes, good. Well, I think we have. Do you want to say your piece about the wait and see crowd before we hop into like why we love Tolkien and like why we love Jackson's stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So
do your rant, babe.
Well, what I've been hearing a lot, and I'm so freaking sick of it, is just people who are getting on us, and I've seen it with you, who are like, oh, you're going to criticize a show before you've even seen it? Listen, if there's something about modern trailers, it's modern trailers always give up way too much of the plot. Like, it wasn't like that in the 80s, 90s, or even the early 2000s. That's a more thing of recent, where they show you so much footage and they give away so much of the plot and the story. And it's like, we can already tell from the trailer, even without watching the show, that it's lore breaking. They don't put much detail into, the writing, into the outfits. Like, we can see the lack of passion. We can see how they've swapped roles between Galadriel and Elrond, and like all those, like, we can see all that. Yeah. And so I just hate that logic, especially coming off of the other show, Wheel of Time. Yeah. And seeing what they did to that. Like, why does this company need the benefit of the doubt? Why do we have to wait and see it before we can be harsh of it? And my question is, where's that end? Like, where? Yeah. Because if I watch the first episode and I say this is garbage, they're like, you're gonna say that after the first episode? Watch a couple more. So I watch a couple more. Well, you got to see at least one season. Yeah. It took me like 3 seasons to get into Breaking Bad. Watch more seasons. All right, so I watch I watch more seasons. Well, you got to see how it ends. Yeah. And I see how it ends, and I'm dissatisfied with the ending. And they're like, okay, well, now your opinion's valid. Yeah. Like, do you work for Amazon? Yeah. Like, seriously, I need to pay it. I need to support it. I need to download every episode, and I can't be critical of it until I've seen all of it. Shut the hell up. Yeah. Like, I could already tell just from one trailer, this is garbage. Yeah. And so I'm just so sick of those people. I don't have to wait for that. And she's been getting hit with that a lot on Twitter. I'm tired of it. Yeah. It's stupid.
It's gaslighting, and they know it, and we know it. When you present a trailer, you're supposed to do. It's their job to make a trailer so that we can want to see it. And if they've failed, if they haven't been able to sell it. And as far as this whole, you've got to watch it, you've got to wait and see, I don't have to do anything. This is my entertainment. Yep. I don't have to give 1 minute to these pieces of garbage. Yep.
Yeah. And that was exactly, that was a part of my rant I forgot to mention. That's literally the point of a trailer. You show me something to create interest and to make me excited for it. If you can't do that part right, you're already failing on making the show interesting for me. Like, the best shows or the best movies and shows I've ever seen, almost always the trailers have gone, wow, that looks really cool. Yeah. Like, usually those line up.
Yeah. Like, that's how I felt about the Discovery of Witches trailers. Like, the first season one was but season 2, oh my gosh, season 2 was so good. And because I was super worried about what they were going to do with Discovery of Witches, because Deborah Harkness is a professor of history, in California. She's left leaning, and like, she wrote rather traditional gender roles in the 2 characters of her world. And I was worried about what they were going to do, what modern day writers were going to do, but they were super faithful to the books. And like, the trailer made me be like, okay, yeah, no, I'm watching this. This is absolutely love this. So, So yeah, if you can't pull me in and assure me as a fan of Tolkien that this is going to be honorable, and 2, get me really excited, then yeah, you have failed miserably. Right then and there, you failed. Like there's no recovery from that.
Well, right, and then everything the producers and the directors say on top of it, you get rid of Tom Shippey, you show your priorities are in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You know, the directors you hire, and then you're going to say things like, "Oh, you know, there's no hobbits in the Second Age, but there's Harfoots," and I said it, and I'm going to mention it as an example again. That's like saying, "Oh, there's no dogs in the movies, but there is German Shepherds." Like, come on, like we're not that stupid. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, I remember right after the first trailer, we were all going, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then they conveniently came out with, by the way, we don't have the right to the actual story. And they really conveniently
Can we
waited.
speak on that for one moment?
Yeah, let me hold on real quickly because I keep forgetting. Cajun Corey gave me a $10 tip. He said, "Thank you for helping me get second in Mario Kart." Did I?
It must have been like a conveniently timed lightning bolt or something
probably,
like that.
They kept giving me lightning bolts. You're welcome, Corey. Of Corey, for you, let's see what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you this. Okay, so real quickly, when I quote tweeted Gary and I put that quote on my Twitter the other day, I was literally saying it to myself in Elvish, but I was like, no, I have to write this in English. So weird. So anyways, Ark, yes. So Ark, say your piece, and then like we do actually need to talk about why we love Tolkien because we're 30 minutes into the stream. So so yeah, let's definitely talk about why we love Tolkien. So yeah, say what you wanted to, and then let's go ahead and move on.
When we were talking about rights and what Amazon does and does not have, I would like to set the field for what rights they do and don't have. In 1969, John Tolkien sold the rights to United Artists. He sold these rights: film, television, stage, and merchandising. Now, later on in the early 2000s, after United Artists sold those set of rights to Saul Zaentz, and Saul Zaentz then created the Tolkien Enterprises. Tolkien Enterprises in the early 2000s, after the Peter Jackson trilogy, was able to broaden the merchandising rights to include video games, jewelries, so on and so forth. It states, and I'm looking at middle-earth-enterprises.com/timeline, and you can go look at this yourself. It is still there. It is going to be updated because Middle-earth Enterprises was sold by the Saul Zaentz company to, Embracer, which is another company based in Europe. But in 2017, Amazon Originals options Lord of the Rings TV series rights from the Tolkien estate. That is in conjunction with Middle-earth Enterprises, because the Tolkien Enterprises changed its name to Middle-earth Enterprises. So they spent $250 million specifically for a TV show. Not movie, not video game, not merchandising, not anything else. Specifically for the TV show. That is what we're dealing with when we're dealing with the rights that Amazon has in regards to Tolkien and Tolkien's Legendarium.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I would probably not have taken such a deep dive, so I appreciate you doing that legwork because that's interesting. But yeah, no, I like this whole rights issue is just it's bizarre, but
it is corporatism. It is pure corporatism.
Which Tolkien would just love, by the way.
Oh, he would be so
he was
pleased.
such a fan of that.
Tolkien wanted to create generational wealth for his descendants. That is why he sold all of the rights he didn't think were he was actually going to use.
To be fair, I didn't think that. I don't think any of us thought this was going to be as bad as it was.
Yeah.
Years ago, when Disney bought Star Wars, I was like, well, that could be interesting.
Mhm.
They made good childhood movies that we all liked. Let's see
Yeah.
where this goes.
Yeah.
Man, I
Well,
was
it
naive.
takes a
I
special
was so
talent,
naive.
yeah.
Like we didn't know. Like so, I understand that, and it's going to be a big learning lesson for a lot of creatives moving forward. Like if I'm making a lot of money off of something, and I can sell my legacy to make a bunch of money, I'm not doing it
Yeah.
because you're going to destroy what I created.
Mhm.
And if I got to sacrifice a bunch of money, that's fine because I'm probably still going to make a bunch of money with it being mine.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
So-
and I mean, like, Ark and I can talk about this for ages. Like what happened to Christopher Bellini, but that's another stream. So, so anyways, so yeah, no, for sure. And I hope other people do take this to heart. So, anyways, okay.
I think I got a good segue though. Like,
do
honestly,
your
like-
segue.
Since we're talking about what we love about Tolkien,
Yeah.
I think coming off of the heels of the Rings of Power discussion,
Yeah.
it's just that the amount of passion
Yeah.
that went into that trilogy
Mhm.
from everybody who was like, just working with the costumes and all the different details on set, the amount of time and energy. If you haven't seen the appendices, like watch that. Like,
Yeah.
it gives you such an appreciation for what they put into it,
Mhm.
and just also how rare it was.
Mhm.
It had to be the perfect storm of everything because,
Yeah.
like, there wasn't much studio interference because it wasn't proven yet.
Well, they tried, and Jackson was like, "See ya."
Yeah, so Peter Jackson and the passion he had.
Yeah.
He's like, we're not putting any of our agendas into it.
Mhm.
We want to keep it about Tolkien's vision. Like he said
Mhm.
that, and then on top of that, just like the level of passion, they wanted to shrink it down to only a couple films, maybe
Yeah.
the one, maybe two,
Mhm.
and they fought for 3.
Yeah.
Like everything had to go just right.
Yep.
So perfect, such a perfect storm, so much passion. It's like, it really is a rare thing. And
It
for them
is.
to film all 3 movies,
Mhm.
one right after another,
Mhm.
so that it feels like it's one continuous film, just so
Mhm.
much continuity. Like there's so many things to be grateful for, to go like, wow, if just a little bit of details was different,
Mhm.
the whole trilogy would have been changed.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
And I must add that I consider Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, I consider that the best attempt in a theatrical release of adapting the Lord of the Rings books to
Mhm.
film.
Mhm.
I consider that the best attempt that we've ever had, and probably the best attempt that we ever will have, considering it did meld practical effects and CGI quite well.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for
So-
sure.
And I understand the gripes that I have heard. Like, for example, she's not going to mind if I talk about her. Hora Murata, she has a problem with some of the things that happened in the film and some of the things that were left out. And I understand that, but I still have to look at it through this lens of, you only have a certain amount of time to create a movie. Each movie in the trilogy was only 2.5, maybe 3 hours long, and then a little bit longer if you include the extended editions. So you have only so much time to set the plot, to have the pacing correct, to bring everyone into the world, have them engrossed into the lore, have them engrossed into the story, have them entertained most of all, but then leave the theater and want to come back.
Yeah.
So that is my defense of Peter Jackson's theatrical release of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's a bad example to go like, well, people were upset about, I said this to Alasia recently, people were upset about the movies not being a pure adaptation of Tolkien's work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, yes, I get that, and I respect their opinion. Like they're free to be upset, but it's like, oh, Christopher Tolkien was upset with the movies. He didn't even think they were a pure adaptation of his father's work. Okay.
Yeah, well, no kidding.
But you don't think he's going to be even more insulted with what we're getting now? How much further away from, what his intention was of it is it now?
Well, people saying that they're doing a straw man. That like that quote, Elrond, I was there. And I was there the whole thing. I think I'm I don't know if you all were old enough to see it at those midnight showings. I was there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And yes, the only thing that really
I would have been
some
4.
people
You're
Wait, I'm
such
sorry?
a baby, dude.
You're a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a baby. Hush.
yeah. No, but the only thing that was genuinely something that gave people pause.
Mhm.
Well, one was a little bit of the Arwen in the Fellowship of the Ring. Everyone was like, yeah, okay, when she was taking the place of Glorfindel. And
Mhm.
a bigger one, and one that was very big to me, was how they portrayed Faramir in the Two Towers. And
Yeah.
yes, and trust me, when it was over, we all were like, yeah, that kind of sucked. You know, I didn't like that, what they did with Faramir. But then we were like, but oh my gosh, blah 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 blah. That just because, and so it's a gaslighting to try to say, well, not everyone was happy with that. It's like, yes, there were a few things that we nitpicked out, and well, actually, maybe something even a little bigger, because I think that the Faramir thing really was an issue, but they corrected it in the third movie. But it was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing compared to this. So it is a gaslighting, it is a straw man, and is plain old Bolshevik to say that.
Well, I love that you brought up the I was there, Gandalf. I was there 3,000 years ago, because everyone who's original characters from Lord of the Rings, they feel like different characters. And first of all, Elrond doesn't even look like Elrond. His hair looks nothing like Elrond. His character's nothing like Elrond. His attitude, his personality, his lack of masculinity, like everything. It's nothing like Elrond. Even to the point where she goes, "You have not seen what I have seen." It's like, what we know about Elrond is he's seen a lot. That's why he said, "I was there 3,000 years ago." And you're going to tell him, "You have not seen what I've seen." It's like, that's his character.
Yeah.
He sees a lot. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And not only were we there, I hear, speaking of another thing being there, because, you know, you're a kid, you've read the books, you've done this, you've lived and breathed this. It's something that's actually inseparable from your religious life. I mean, trust me, it's huge. That's when they tried to rewrite our attitudes toward Ian McClellan. I can't even get started on that. That was a bald-faced lie. I was there, okay? But so you cannot even imagine. Maybe you were there. I don't know how old you were when the first trailer came out. And remember, we didn't have the internet, or we barely had the internet. We couldn't really see things. We didn't have them on our phone. The first footage we saw from the trilogy, and you see like the Frodo grabbing the ring, and then the dun 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 dun. You know, they use different music, and then just a few things. And the scene with the Fellowship walking over the mountains, and it goes, Fellowship of the Ring, 2001.
Yes.
We went in friggin' insane.
Yep.
I mean, my friend was sitting there. All my friends were like, "Oh my god!" I mean, we were actually literally like those fake fans when they were like,
"Yeah," except you were actually fans.
We had a reason for it. Okay.
Yep.
And she. My friends, we were all we breathed Tolkien. And so to see that and to try to compare it to anything else, it's you cannot even imagine. The reason why that movie won all those Oscars, every single one of them was earned.
Yep.
And Howard Shore's score, what it did to me as a musician, I got to play that. I've gotten to conduct that music. I've gotten to I played on the tin whistle. You want to talk about something you need a metaphorical cigarette for, and because it brought the essence of what it meant, what Tolkien meant to life. Because I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that this story is a sacred mythology, almost a sacred mythology as real mythology, because we all know that Tolkien made up this mythology. But it was just so much a part of our being and everything that we knew about fantasy. It was the holy grail of fantasy, and it changed the way you almost wanted to live your life. It almost made you a better person.
Well, the funny thing is, as many Oscars as it won, it should have won more.
Yeah.
I mean, because for the Academy Awards, it's not normal for like sci-fi and fantasy genres to win stuff like Best Picture and stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember they gave it, I believe, 13 Academy Awards for including Best Picture for Return of the King.
Yeah.
But Best Picture and a bunch of other awards that they should have won for Two Towers and Fellowship, they didn't get. They didn't get Best Picture. I think one of the years Best Picture was like Chicago. Who talks about Chicago now? Like, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but I'm like, Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, like, come on. Like,
yeah. At least they were nominated. And sure, he won 2 Oscars. He got one for the Fellowship of the Ring and the one for the
Return
thing. I mean, it was like Annie Hall. Who remembers Annie Hall? That's what won Best Picture instead of Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, that's the only Oscars I've ever watched is Return of the King. When the Return of the King
the one that was just all Lord of the Rings. Like, I even remember
the only one.
I even remember them making a joke. Like, somebody walked up on stage and was like, I was happy to win the one award that the Return of the King didn't win.
Yeah, well, Billy Crystal got up on stage and he's like, did you know that people are moving to New Zealand to be thanked now? So yeah, it was like a running joke that night. So but yeah, no, I lost my train of thought.
Okay, it's so deep you can't remember it.
Basically, I wasn't meant to say it. So, anyways, so while we're on this spiel of the movies, I know this is hard, but I wanted to ask you guys. I want to start with Miss Martin Muse. What is your favorite scene out of all 3 movies? I know this is a cruel question. I know this is mean, but I would like to know if you had to choose one, which one would it be?
Well, okay, I'm an emotional woman. The second you said that, when Frodo, in Return of the King, when Frodo is crawling, and the music, and Sam is like, oh gosh, why I cried at the drop of a hat at this because it never fails. I do this when I read it too, and he's like, I can't, the darkness, and then, Sam says that line. It's like, then let's be rid of it. I can't.
Yeah, I can't carry it for you, or I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you.
Yeah. And he lifts him up. Come on, Mr. Frodo. And then Into the West music.
Yes, you're just making me start crying.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I'm sorry. It just boom. It just came out of me. That nothing. I think in cinema,
and I think it has that effect, specifically from the movie standpoint, specifically from if you're just a normie and you didn't read the books and you just watched the movie. I think that even normies could have that reaction because they are so exhausted from the journey that they have taken in those movies. That they are so close to the movie being over, to the ring finally being destroyed, and that is how the ring gets to the doorstep to Mount Doom. Was Sam physically picking up Frodo and carrying him while exhausted to finish the fight.
Yeah, for sure.
I need like a different favorite scene for each emotion.
Yeah,
because like that one. So like my favorite hero emotion. Yeah. Like heroic, like that's my favorite heroic moment. You're just filled with so much like, let's go, like let's go. Like I love that scene.
Yeah.
And Battle Cry, just the ride of the Rohirrim. Ride now, ride for Rurik, and the world's end. So good. That my favorite sad moment is when Elrond goes full savage on his daughter and just is like, he is going to die and you are going to be alone. And I'm just like, everyone's just like in tears, like, oh my God, poor Arwen. She's just like walking alone with like these drapes over her face, looking at stone, like, Aragorn, and there's a blue tent, and it's just like leaves are rustling. Looks like an apocalypse is happening. Yeah, it's so sad.
That's a savage father-daughter talk.
Oh my gosh! It's so good. It delivers on that gut punch. It's like, you love him, but the loneliness that you will experience afterwards. But of course, obviously, there's a child that comes into it, and that's a beauty of her legacy, and will still go on. So that's wonderful too. And I think my favorite hopeful moment. Yeah, I'll stop after this. But my favorite hopeful moment is Gandalf talking to Pippin. Yeah, and just telling him about what basically heaven's like. Yeah. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, that is such a beautiful scene, and you can
Mhm.
even just see it like so well acted
Mhm.
by both characters in that
Yeah.
instance. I love
Yeah.
that. So yeah,
And-
it kind of just depends on each moment. I'm like, do I want a good cry, or do I want to just be ready for war? Like, you know, depends.
Okay, and I'm going to do a self-indulgent share there because of, you know that meaning of what that means. My grandfather passed away a year after that movie, and right before we put him down into the earth, I sang Into the West to him.
Oh my God.
That's
And the, you and I will meet again, and
Yeah,
what do you see?
Mhm.
Go into the West.
Yeah.
The ship has come to care. Oh, everyone was just dying.
Yeah.
Everyone's bawling. Yeah. So that's how special it is.
Yeah, for sure. Friends, you bow to no one. That's a really good scene.
that scene I was a little harsh on when it first happened.
Yeah.
Because I am like, Mary and Pippin need to be kneeling too. Like, this is BS. They did not go through what Frodo and Sam went through, and I'm sick and tired of them taking just as much credit. I'm tired of it.
They deserve just as much credit, though.
No,
And
they
yes,
don't.
they
No,
do.
no,
We are about
Sam.
to have a nerd fight, Johnny.
They never. Okay, Frodo carrying the ring and being stabbed on Weathertop. Come on, they did not go through that. And Sam, he got it all the way to Mordor and then carried freaking Frodo on his back.
There never would have been a chance to reach Mount Doom if Pippin did not light the beacons. There never would have been a chance
if you
to
want to
win
play
the
the
Battle of
butterfly
Pelennor
effect, we could
Field
say that about a
if
lot of
Mary
people.
hadn't stabbed the Witch King.
You really want to go all butterfly
Boom,
effect with it?
roasted. That is not the butterfly
roasted.
effect.
Are you kidding me? There's so many characters you could do that with. I'm sorry, I'm not going to turn this into a rage stream, babe. But Ark, we'll debate this on your Twitch channel.
Oh, yeah.
Your take is cancerous. Like by your logic, it's like, well, if Gimli hasn't axed that one orc and he ends up killing Aragorn, which then ripple effects into come on.
No, I have a valid argument. You're making stuff
We'll
up
continue it another time. All right, fine. It'll be a good
Is
argument.
it my turn yet?
Let me say my favorite scene, and then you may say yours, Ark.
Okay. I go last. I see how it is.
That's exactly how it is.
That's for last.
So my favorite scene, actually, I mean, I think I probably also yes, Dawn, I know. Thank goodness Dawn is here. She can keep these boys in check. You're fine, dude. My favorite scene is when everyone is standing on the walls of Helm's Deep, and the camera pans to the caves, and you see the mothers holding the babies, and you see them crying, and you just see them comforting each other. That moment, I feel like for me, that's the turning point in Middle Earth, because that's when stuff gets real, and you realize that this is what we're fighting for. It's not just destroying the ring. It's not just so that we can end this evil. It's the next generation that we're fighting for, and that no matter how bad the odds are, we have to stand. So that moment of those mothers holding their children, and even a little bit before that, when the soldiers of Rohan go underground to the caves, and they get all the young men and they get the old men who have probably only ever held shears in their hands. They only use a sling and stone because of wolves attacking their herds. That's the only thing that they've ever done. They've lived relatively peaceful lives. Not everyone's called to the life of a soldier, but they're in this moment, the men have to stand up. And if you're 12, sucks to be you, but you have to stand, your mother, who's a single mom, your two little sisters, you have to stand and defend them. So even though there's a hard scene to watch, that will always probably be my favorite scene of just this moment of the few defenders. It's not the politics of Middle Earth at that point in time. It's the kids. It's the babies. Mm-hmm. It's the mothers holding their children. That's what matters. So I don't know. That scene for me is always, it hits so hard, because also there's no dialogue, and I don't think that there's much music in that point. But you hear the Uruk-hai advancing. You feel I remember in the appendices, the way they got that the march of the Uruk-hai was actually, they went out and filmed a volcano, and they just went whoom, whoom, whoom. So that's how they got that marching sound. That's all you hear is just the Uruk-hai advancing, but then you just see the babies crying, and so yeah. So that's probably my favorite scene in the whole trilogy. So yeah. All right, Ark, you may say your piece now. What's your favorite scene if you had to choose one?
It would also be from the Two Towers.
Mhm.
It would be when Theoden is giving his speech,
Mm-hmm.
as he is being dressed, as his armor is being placed upon him, and it is where's the rider,
Oh yeah.
and that scene, it's just very powerful because he was twisted and manipulated by Saruman's magic. He was broken, and he was once a great king. He was once a kind king, and
Mhm.
he turned his back on his people, even if it was against his will. He still did, and he had that weight to bear, and so he had to make up for it. And he was going to hold out at Helm's Deep, and he was going to fight with his men, and he was going to fight to the last man.
Mhm.
And that scene has always been touching, especially with the score,
Mhm.
especially with Theoden speaking and the cinematography of that speech. It moves you when you're watching the movie and you've gotten to that point. It feels correct.
Yeah.
You know what scene I think is underrated?
What?
My most underrated scene
What's that?
is Theoden's son dying. And when
Oh,
he comes to the
yeah.
realization of it,
Yeah.
Yes.
and there's a couple reasons why I love it, and I think it's so underrated. Like Gandalf's there consoling him, and he's weeping. With the music,
Yeah.
with the acting,
Mhm.
with the atmosphere,
Mhm.
and no father should have to bury their child.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. And we're getting emotional over this character that we've never met.
Literally.
We never met him. We never saw him.
Yeah.
But we're just like, oh God, poor Theoden, this
Yeah.
guy who we just don't know. Like, that sucks. Like, how well do you have to piece that together for us to feel so sad about a character that we never really got to know on screen?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Another underrated scene that I always enjoyed was the Entmoot, because even though it took a couple scenes to actually get that section of the story done and the section of the story told on screen, I always found it to be, it showed the courage of Merry and Pippin, and it showed the tenacity of those two hobbits, and how they wanted to help their friends. They wanted to be with first off, Merry and Pippin wanted to be with Sam and Frodo, but they also developed such a relationship, such a friendship with Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn, that they wanted to be with them as well. And so they were doing everything that they could, and the last ditch effort is, let's get these talking trees to come help out.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hey, an honorable mention, I think someone in the chat said this, is of course Boromir's sacrifice.
So powerful.
Yeah, when he just fought to the last second for trying to save the hobbits.
Yeah.
And what makes that scene even more powerful to me is it's not in the books. It's not.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not in the books.
you just come up to Boromir being like, he is literally dying. He is broken. And so it showed how talented of a director Peter Jackson is, and how talented of an actor Sean Bean is, and how talented of a team that they had assembled around them, and how much they cared about the lore, and how much they cared about Tolkien, that they were able to take a leap of faith, and add something into a movie that was not in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what? I wish I could have. Sorry, go ahead, Art.
And they did it wonderfully.
They did.
Yeah. What I wish I could have heard, I'd love to just hear his response, is like, take The Walking Dead, for example. When that show was coming out, the comic books and the source material were already out. So as the show was making changes, they would approach Robert Kirkman, the writer of the comic book, and they would go, what do you think about this? Like, are you okay with this making some changes? And sometimes he would say, no, that's just not really how I envision the character. And other times he would be like, oh yeah, absolutely. That's even better than what I came up with. I kind of wonder, like, if they had been able to approach Tolkien on that Boromir arc, like how he would have felt about it. Because again, it's just so well done. And it is such a beautifully redemptive story arc, which, based on Tolkien, his style, and even his faith, like, that seems very in line with something he would have liked. So I just wish I could Oh, it would have been
could've
cool
asked him
to,
that.
yeah,
And
see what he thought of it.
And I don't buy into the attitude and the hot take, and I believe it is a hot take, of that Tolkien was as much of a curmudgeon or as much of like an angry person when it came to protecting, in quotation marks, his work. You often hear people say that Aragorn and any person that had Númenórean blood was not supposed to have a beard because elves didn't have beards. And Tolkien said this in a letter. And so if you liked Viggo Mortensen's portrayal of Aragorn, then you don't like Tolkien because Viggo had a beard. I don't buy into that at all.
Yeah.
I do not believe that Tolkien would have bashed the films for that. Now, sure, he could have come up with something else, but these people always find minute details and nitpick it to death. Sure. And I don't think Tolkien would have done that. I think he would have been not proud of the trilogy, but I think he would have smiled and nodded his head because of how many people it introduced to the Lord of the Rings, the books, the actual canon.
Sure. Yeah. And something that was cool about just Christopher Tolkien is like people seem to lose this is like, to him, Lord of the Rings is so much more than just like, did it portray it well? Is it something we like? He's fighting for his father's legacy. And so probably anything that veers off from what he originally wrote, I imagine it's going to be unacceptable to him.
Absolutely.
And it's not surprising that Rings of Power just made a whole bastardization of his father's work after
he died.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think it's hard to say what Tolkien would say or wouldn't say because he was a man of the last century. One way or another, that's my personal opinion. What did he say? He said history is one long defeat. Anyways, I think that he probably would have just at that point just been whatever. But whenever people try to use something superficial like that part of Aragorn, like to use that example arc, it's absurd because it's superficial and. We don't want to talk about the other thing, but I mean, I could forgive someone not having a beard. I'll just say that if everything else was fine. I could forgive short hair if everything else was fine. But Tolkien, I mean, when you read his stuff, he really did not like Hollywood. He didn't like Americans. I mean, okay, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. Let me rephrase that. But I think he.
Well, even in his letters, he had many American children writing to him.
Oh, I know. I said the wrong phrase.
I understand, but we're just clarifying for the
American culture.
And our the consumerism and
yes,
exactly. and definitely the culture at the time and the politics at the time, from I would even say the 1930s to the 1960s, we were very, very focused on consumerism. Even though in the 1930s we were going through a Great Depression, there were still quite a few people that were not affected by the Great Depression, and then you even have a perfect prime example of American consumerism with the 1920s, and he would have noticed that because that's the roaring 20s. Everything was booming at the time, and so I can agree with that, Miss Muses. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, people say all the time, like, based on this new show and everything, Tolkien's rolling over in his grave. I don't like what Miss Martin Muses said. Is like we can't really speak on behalf of Tolkien. I think that's really kind of a negative way to look at what his response would be to this whole Rings of Power thing, because I mean he probably would have been disgusted the instant Amazon got it before he saw any of the trailers. But like I think we're ignoring like a lot of the beautiful aspects of all this. I've never seen a fandom as passionate as what Tolkien built. Like the people who love Tolkien's work now, like I've never seen a response this passionate. People fighting tooth and nail in comment sections, posting memes, just like Alasia's basically made it like her daily task to just go to war on Twitter on behalf of Tolkien's work. and you just love to see it. There's a lot of people doing that, and so just like the passion that everybody has, it's like I've never really seen any fandom with this much passion.
Yeah.
I gotta feel like that would just, I mean, if that was me, that would make me feel incredible. You know,
the only other fandom that even came a centimeter close to the Tolkien fandom was the Halo franchise fandom. And I didn't see this with Star Wars. I did not see this with The Witcher. I did not see this with Wheel of Time. I did not see this with Resident Evil. And yes, Disparu is a major fan of the Wheel of Time. He is not so much a fan of Lord of the Rings. He is just making Lord of the Rings videos, like saying, hey, they're doing this to your precious franchise like they did to mine. So he is a rare voice.
I was about to say, I know a lot of, but then again, maybe I know a lot of Wheel of Time people, because the Wheel of Time thing was a big deal, but maybe just not people in our circles. Yeah, that was
also in the mainstream. Like, I am noticing this on a wide scale. People that aren't even Tolkien fans have watched this and have said, this is awful. This is horrible. This is not like the movies that you made me watch so many years ago when we were dating and now we're married. Like, I remember there was a couple people that said like their wife had watched it and had texted them, or like their sister had watched it and had texted them. They're not even Tolkien fans, and they know it's horrible. They know it's an abomination. I didn't see that with Wheel of Time. I didn't see that with Star Wars. And what I saw was acceptance.
No. Oh, okay. We're gonna start another fight here.
Well, I feel like it's different because it's hard to scale, because the Lord of the Rings fan base is so much larger, so much bigger. So naturally, the response is going to look more passionate, just because you're going to have more people outweighing him. But yeah, I'm sure for the most passionate Wheel of Time fans, you know, they were just fuming, because my grandpa was one of them. I'm glad, you know, it's sad that he's not around anymore, but I'm glad he didn't have to see that abomination of a show. So, because that would have been terrible.
Well, I think it's also going back to what I said earlier, is that Tolkien was like the OG. It was the original, and it was universally loved. It's been translated in so many different languages. I mean, it's a part of our mythos. I don't know if you remember in 2000 when he kept coming up as people's author of the century, and they kept like trying to redo it because they're like, no, Tolkien can't be the author of the century. You know, you got Evelyn Waugh, you got Ernest Hemingway, but because people realize that this is great literature.
Yeah,
it's on a whole other plane. And as far as the beauty, going to why people are seeing what's wrong with the Rings of Power, it goes to truth. It shines in the darkness the way nothing else can. I've heard when they are trying to train people to detect counterfeit, they don't show people counterfeit. They immerse them in real money, real currency. So if you make real currency, for example, a part of your very soul, if that's your job, for example, if you're looking for counterfeit money, it's the same thing. When you have truth, you recognize it. It's jarring. It's weird. And this has inspired me. For example, I went back on my channel and we went through the entire thing. Though we did stop after Silmarillion because we were like, okay, our brains are about to explode.
Yeah.
It took us a whole year to do it. But I think that it's not that you wish anybody ill, but it doesn't mean that I might have a little bit of schadenfreude if this is the bomb. That we know it's going to be, but I think that what we have deprived them of, and it's not even us, it's just the light of what Tolkien presented, is they wanted to be Peter Jackson. They wanted everyone to say, "Look what you have done. You have brought Tolkien to life. Thank you," and shower them with love. It's pride. It's Luciferian. It's Lucifer, right? It really strikes as pride. They come off as Morgoth and Sauron himself, and that's the one thing they're never gonna get. They're never gonna get our respect.
Well, it was interesting because we were talking about pride today, and it's like, again, just what I appreciate about the trilogy is like the level of humility that Peter Jackson had is like, I just want to adapt this story. You know, I want to adapt Tolkien's story. It's not about me. It's about his story. And I'm like, that's really a humble approach that a lot of people in Hollywood don't have. And even looking at Amazon now, they're now, what are they, hiding reviews of the show?
They're suspending reviews.
They're suspending reviews, and it's like, what does that accomplish? Like, to me, that's even worse. That's even worse than the negative reviews that shows that it gets this much in your head. It's pride.
Yeah.
And like any of us here who are YouTubers, content creators, you've had that one video that's just bombed. Okay. I've had hundreds, if not thousands of people telling me you were wrong. This is stupid. Like, what is this video? I kept it up.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. That's just what you do when you're a grown up.
Yeah.
You take the criticism, and Amazon's like, we can't have this. Let's silence everyone. It's like, you're acting like you can't handle criticism.
Yeah.
And so these people are just like so prideful. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, it's like that quote from Game of Thrones where Tyrion says, when you cut out a man's tongue, you don't prove him a liar. You prove you're afraid of what he might say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, someone said earlier, and I think that I think it might have been Ben. Ben said he's currently reading the books for the first time. And like, not only does that make me really happy, I think like what I can hope for now is that people will go back and read Lord of the Rings. Who knows? They might even read the Silmarillion. They might read the Unfinished Tales, which I frankly liked better than the Silmarillion. It's not because, like, I know a lot of people are like, we don't like the Silmarillion for this, that, and the other thing. I just like the Unfinished Tales because it expanded on the Silmarillion. Like, it gave us so much more about Turin and you know, that line of men and his journey and everything, and how he married his sister, which was just gross. But anyways, like, you know, we got so much more information. So I love the Unfinished Tales deeply. But you know, the fact that people are now, and like, you know, we went today and I got a whole new copy. Like, you all saw, like, if you saw my tweet today, like for the Peter Jackson LOTR that we got trending, I think, for a little while on Twitter today. I had posted my shelf at home, which is completely overflowing now with Lord of the Rings books, and I got 2 more because I was like, why not? Because I don't have these copies. So you know, it's hopefully making people go and pick up, you know, the books and start collecting them. So, you know, that's really good to see. And I was reading, actually, I was getting ready for the stream. I was rereading, I was listening to Two Towers on the Plain, and I was listening to it while I was getting ready. And it to this day, I'm ever so slightly annoyed that, first of all, Tolkien did not say it. And then Peter Jackson didn't put this, like these 2 scenes in the movies, in Fellowship and Two Towers, that clearly Treebeard and Celeborn have a beef with each other, and we don't know why. Literally, Treebeard is like, oh, that's funny. Celeborn had the audacity to say to you that you shouldn't be in my forest. I would have said the same about, and he called it Laura Linden. But like, he's like, that jerk, essentially. So yeah. About Celeborn, and I was like, I need to know what happened between these 2. I need to know what caused this, because I think that is just, that's hysterical. And it's like, it's such a British humor to like hint that Celeborn and Treebeard don't like each other, and I want to know why.
Yeah. They root for opposing football teams in the Premier League. One's Man United, one's Man City. Yep, you heard it here first.
Well, the funny thing is, you say that about the movies.
Where the camera is. Yeah.
I think it works for the I mean, sorry, you say that about the books, being a book girl. I think that works for the films too.
Mhm.
Because my mind's blown when I talk to people younger than me, because we're getting old.
Yeah.
When I talk to people younger than me, I'm like, you haven't seen Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? But they're like 20, you know? It's like, it kind of makes sense. It didn't
Yeah.
come out during their day. And we just assume like everybody's seen them.
Yeah.
And so going back and watching how well these films stand up, and that
Mhm.
sort of, like, a lot of people haven't done it. Like, why is everybody saying this show's terrible?
Yeah.
And like this show back in the day is so much better. I think people are legitimately like gonna go check them out. Warner Brothers, apparently, I checked my theater. It's not happening. Otherwise, we'd be going.
I know.
But apparently, they're putting it in theaters again, which is
Yeah.
a great move. Everybody's talking about go back and watch the good stuff, you
Yeah.
know, and then you're releasing it in theaters. That's smart. So, yeah.
For sure.
Now I gotta Google and see if it's local.
Do it. Yeah,
Right?
I'm
I
gonna check again. I
I
checked through the
know.
date. I'm gonna check again to see if it's in my theater.
If anyone lives where they have a Flicks Brew House, which are not they're not a huge chain, but Flicks Brew House. So earlier this year, they did a fan fest event, and so I got to see the extended cuts of all 3 movies during the fan fest event. So it was like I think it was January, February, and March. But you have to go dig on Flicks Brew House's website to find the fan fest events. So if you can't find it in a normal theater, look for like the brew houses, because they might have it. I was checking mine in Albuquerque again, and they sadly are not starting it up, but maybe they will. I hope they will again, because also we got Trader like specialty pens. So yes, I took a plane because I can't drive for 15 hours. So yeah, if you're living in a city where they're showing the extended cuts in theater, go see them.
Yeah, that was I haven't seen them in 13 or 7, however when it was 2003. I'll tell you what, I saw those so many times in the cinema when they were released. I lost count, literally.
Yeah,
it was like every Friday night. It's like, let's all go see the movies again.
That's nice. See, I only got to see the Return of the King in theater. I was 13. Yeah, I only got to see Return of the King.
We gotta fix that.
I know. Well, but I just got to see the others in theater early this year. But yeah, so I only got to see Return of the King, and I think I saw it 3 times. And I've told this story on other streams. So when the extended editions came out, for an entire year, and I'm not exaggerating, for an entire year, every single weekend, I would put on the extended cuts and I'd watch them from Friday evening to Sunday evening. I'd stay up until like 3 a.m. because I had to wait until my family to go to sleep because I had 2 younger siblings, and that's what I did for an entire year. And then I didn't watch them for like 15 years because I could literally recite them word for word. But yeah, no, like that is, and it's funny, like I wasn't a huge like fantasy nut when I was younger. I wasn't, but it was the Lord of the Rings that made me a fantasy fan. Like if it hadn't been for my parents and I think I read the books in between Two Towers coming out like on DVD and Return of the King coming out in theaters. I wouldn't be a fantasy fan now if it weren't for Tolkien, if it weren't for my parents getting the movies and letting me watch them. So yeah, I owe my obsession with fantasy to Tolkien, and I know, and like it's like, yeah, big whoop. So like every single person on this planet, but they are so special in that way.
Yeah, it just shows how important the work is. I will say, if you're gonna watch modern Lord of the Rings in theaters, I saw it like 8-9 months ago. I saw the entire trilogy. It was like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They had the movies, and I went and saw them all. The most annoying part about seeing him in the theater today is so many times people are just giggling for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard, and then everybody's just like, and like if you're like an extrovert, you're probably like, oh look, everyone's having fun, and I'm just like, shut up! I want to act like it's the first time again. Like that's what I'm doing in the theater.
My
I'm just like, God, you people are annoying. It's like, and there's so many people just giggling the whole time. So my theater, what it does is for like $150, you can like rent out a whole theater and invite like 20 of your friends.
Oh, that would be so worth it.
Right?
I'm gonna do that, and me and her are just gonna watch it alone.
Can be my wedding gift.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, that's about as much as it costs to get a normal ticket anyways anymore if you're going to get popcorn and candy. So
no kidding.
Just get the whole daggone theater.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, no, it makes me happy that people are reading the books and rereading them and just going back and enjoying what made them fall in love with Tolkien. And so, but there are definitely things like now, I'm rereading them right now. There's definitely things in there. I'm like, would have taken like 30 seconds for you to keep that line in. Why is it not in the movies?
Don't even get me started on what they cut from the Return of the King with the Houses of Healing with Faramir and Eowyn. It was literally like 30 seconds. That's all I wanted.
We should do that real quick. Just go around. What's your least favorite thing or like the worst executed thing in the movie where you're like, why couldn't that have been different?
Yeah.
Was that yours or
no? You go first, babe. I gotta think.
Okay, well, first of all, I mean, I've gone on and on about the scouring of the Shire, but that's not actually the thing I was the most disappointing with. That wasn't in the film. My most frustrating thing, and some people who've seen me on Twitch have heard me rant about this, is when they finally get to Mordor in Return of the King, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's the Eye of Sauron," and I'm just expecting like what would have been so cool is Sauron looking from the west to the east, and you just see this red wave of light just covering all the land, like freaking, Mufasa, it's whatever the light touches is our kingdom. That's what I'm thinking. Sauron's vision's going to be just like, whoa, he just sees everything. No, he's got like an 8x8 spotlight, and he did the this. That is so weak. I thought he saw everything. And he's literally just like a low quality spotlight for security. A
low quality spotlight for security.
It was so bad.
Clip that.
And literally there's one part where the spotlight's looking at him.
Yeah.
And it's like he didn't see him. So it's like even when they're in his 8x8 circle, it's not enough. So disappointed in the theater.
And he's always saying, "I see you," so that's also a lie.
It's still my favorite movie of all time, but come on. God, that part drove me nuts.
Yeah. All right, Ark, I still gotta think. So Ark, you go next. Which scene are you annoyed with?
For me, it would be and I think that there would be a way to execute this without Tom Bombadil, but for me, it's the Barrow Downs.
Oh yeah.
With the Barrow White. I think that there could have been a way to very easily, I think, execute that without Tom Bombadil. And I understand Tom is the one that comes and saves them, yada yada yada. But that is such a favorite scene from the Fellowship for me, and I wish that they could have added it in.
Yeah. People are agreeing with Johnny. Miss Martin Muse, what about you? Is there a scene that you didn't like how it was executed apart from the Houses of Healing?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I didn't like the fact that it wasn't in the theatrical.
Yeah.
But as far as something that was in them that I did not like the way it was executed, Jeannie Mac.
I know.
Yeah, probably the Ents. The way they did the whole thing, where they were like, "Oh no, never mind. We're not going to do anything. We'll just take you home." And then Pippin, I think, is the one that tricks him into staying Isengard, and then he's like,
yeah.
And then they go crazy. When in the book, of course, it was like this big, huge upright, just this powerhouse. When they all decided, okay, we're gonna go get this. And then they were like, "Whoa!" And it was so intimidating. And in the movie, it was no thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Fangorn's bellow was good, but no, I agree with you because you could tell that by the time that Treebeard found Merry and Pippin, most of the Ents had made up their mind that things needed to change and that they needed to go after Saruman. But by the end of the Entmote, they're like, no, we're gonna go, we're going, and I can't think of I was like, oh, here's another thing I wish
I'll give you time, because that most recent comment was another one I was thinking of.
Which one?
The Army of the Dead being like the freaking Piranha Army.
Oh yeah.
When they're just they're too they were too overpowered. Like they were just too powerful. I'm like, dude, anybody who's got them on their team, like they can't take damage. They're ghosts. They're swarming like, freaking World War Z zombies.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? Which honestly, I think that would have been cooler. Like seeing them portrayed not like ghosts, but like zombies, where you hit them, like you take a flesh out of them and they're just like, I'm still attacking you though. So it's like, if you decapitate them or something like that, they're done. Like you have a chance. But for them to just be like freaking fast as hell, high powered ghosts that can just like zoom through anything as they're just mowing dudes down and they're swarming it. It was just too much.
Yeah, they're like scrubbing bubbles, like the scrubbing bubbles commercial.
Yeah, because then for Aragorn too to be like, you're good. Like, we don't need you anymore. It's like, what? You might, the end of the world is on the line, and you're like, nah, you like invincible ghosts. Like, you can chill now. But like, you do whatever you could to keep these godlike figures on your team.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, for sure.
I've often thought how funny it would be if the Army of the Dead did show up at the Black Gate. And they just run through and they're able to carve a path straight to Barad-dûr and straight to Mount Doom. And there's nothing that Sauron can do about it because, it's the Army of Bubbles, as we've lovingly called them now.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. I could almost picture that in a video, like how it should have ended. Like Lord of the Rings, how it should have ended.
Yeah.
And just watch them just wipe through everyone. End the movie.
And we're good. Yeah.
One of my favorite funny moments, though, is in the extended edition at the end of Helm's Deep, where Gimli is sitting on the Uruk-hai and he's smoking a pipe and he's got his axe in the back of the Uruk-hai. And so Legolas shoots the Uruk-hai and counts it as his, and he's like, "What do you mean? I've already killed him. He was twitching. That's because I've got my axe embedded in his nervous system." It makes no sense.
Yeah.
On how a dwarf would know about a nervous system, but I always chuckle at that.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, it's just that's like such pure John Rhys Davies. The only thing that I can think of, I was annoyed about how it was executed, and we talked about this yesterday because we actually watched the first disc of Fellowship of the Ring in 4K, which neither of us has seen. So that was special. It was actually I don't like how it was done. The wizard's duel between Saruman and Gandalf when Saruman throws him the Palantir and
the way they just toss each other back and forth.
And I'm like, this is a little too Star Warsy. This is like he's like literally using the Force, and then like when Gandalf he's spinning him around before he shoots him up to the top of the tower. I don't like how that whole scene was executed.
Yeah, because his hair's not even moving.
Yeah,
it's like he's frozen in time as he's being, and then he throws him up into the ceiling. It's like. I said this to her. I was like, is there like a hatch there or something? Like, how did he get tossed up into the ceiling and then end up above it? Like, I just don't, how does that work?
Yeah. And I was telling him, that was the part that Weta went to Lucasfilm for, because they they were like, we need a big sweeping motion. And like, how do you guys execute that? So that was Lucasfilm who helped.
That was George Lucas.
George Lucas.
You know what Lord of the Rings needs? More Revenge of the Sith. It's almost crazy that they didn't bust out lightsabers. Like,
yeah. So I'm not terribly fond of that wizard's duel.
It was because I watched it for the first time with a buddy of mine who had never seen Lord of the Rings, and he was giggling at that scene. And that's from like a normie's perspective. It was he was just like, wow, what is this?
It was most definitely amusing. It was most definitely
it was. And the dialogue and everything up to that moment, just stellar. Just A+++. But then the tossing each other aside with wind.
Right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Okay, well, that kind of sparked. I mean, I know that we love Jackson's trilogy, but there are definitely scenes I think we can all think about that are not in the movies that we wish were, or like not even like whole scenes, but just like aspects of the movie that are aspects of the book that weren't in the movie. That we all miss. So I'm gonna start with this one so you guys can think. But someone mentioned that Elrond's sons, Elrohir and Elladyne, They're nowhere to be found in these movies. And like literally they show up at the end of the book and they're like, yeah, we're going to ride with Aragorn because they like been riding with Aragorn since he was a kid. Like they grew up with him and they fought with the Rangers. And so I really am annoyed that Elrohir and Eladine were nowhere to be found, because if you're not like a book fan, you're not going to know that Elrond has more than one child. So yeah, I'll always regret that we didn't see those two. And look what we have here. Hi, Lady G.
Hey.
Hope you're well, darling. All right, Miss Martin Muse, what do you think? Is there like any like small aspect or scene that you wish were in the movies?
Oh my gosh. Not there's really nothing that completely comes to mind off the top of my head. Oh, okay. I just found one. I've been thinking actually quite hard. When at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, before much even happens, when Frodo and Samwise, when they run across the elves, and,
oh yes,
and Sam actually has a very long tete-a-tete with the elf whose name just escaped me because I have no brain cells either. I need to get an exorcism from all of this bad stuff from the
Yes,
Rings
lady.
of Power to get my brain cells back. But the elf actually is the one that tells Sam, don't you leave him, you need to stay with him. And that Sam was not the same after that. That Sam was almost touched by grace at that moment. And that was a very, very beautiful scene. And maybe explains a lot of what we see later with Samwise, what he was able to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, I hadn't even thought of that scene. But yeah, that is. I forgot that Sam has that small discussion with that elf. So yeah, no, well done.
Can I go just so Arkasul will be pissed that he has to go last again?
Of course you can.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Then we'll get Lady G.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then we'll have her go,
Yes.
and then Arkasul.
And then Ark,
so.
yes.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Oh my God.
The scouring of the Shire, for several reasons. I go on about it like every Lord of the Rings stream. And I have like 4 reasons for it. 1, because Tolkien put it in there. Like, if it's in the book, I think it should be in there. 2, the character development of the hobbits. Like, I feel like that would have been so badass to see them handle business themselves afterwards. 3, I don't remember 3. 4, I think 4 is Galadriel. Yeah. When she's at the pool. Yeah. Things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass. Was she making that up? Was she lying? Because that didn't happen. It wasn't going to happen. And it's like, she just lied. And it's like, what? Like, I was waiting for that to happen. I'm like, oh my God, the Shire's going to be on fire? No, it's not. It's just, she made it up. She was screwing with Frodo's head. And I was just, it would have been so cool. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. Lady G, is there an aspect from the books? I don't know if you heard when you came in. I don't know if you heard me say. I'm always really regretted that Elrohir and Eladine weren't included. Yes. I hate that Arwen's brothers weren't included, because I also hate, this is another little thing, that Celeborn and Elrohir and Eladine, the 3 of them stayed in Rivendell until Arwen died. So I'm sorry. That's just, again, Tolkien wrote very deliberately, and clearly Celeborn loved his granddaughter, and clearly her brothers loved her as well. So the fact that they left the minute she died to me is very telling. So I'm just annoyed that was in there. So anyways, lady, is there an aspect or scene from the book that you really wish was in the movies?
Yes, and I know it's something Teresa's going to disagree with me on. I would have really appreciated the death song that Aragorn sang. And because when you read it in the books, especially, okay, let me collect my thoughts, because I have to switch into positive mode, because it's been Amazon Trop for like 48 hours straight. I have to go on the same cleanse as Miss Martin. We're gonna have to go watch the extended editions on repeat for the long weekend, because like my soul needs it.
It hurts.
Yeah, it really does. But when you read when you read about Aragorn and Boromir, like, oh, dude, Sean Bean, I don't think anyone else could have played Boromir.
Mm-mm.
And I mean that with every fiber of my soul.
100% agree.
He was so phenomenal because, like, I remember, like, I read the books. I think the movies came out. I was still pretty young, but I first read the books when I was in 5th grade. And I remember reading his dying words to Aragorn, and I was like, I don't even know, like, I'm in 5th grade and it's like hitting my soul. I was just like, oh my God. Like, even after, you know, and in the books, obviously more stuff happens because it's in the movie. And yes, I know it's because it's cinematic. They had to condense it for time. But in the movie, it's not that Boromir does like a quick grab, right? There is like, he's legitimately trying to coax the ring from Frodo and then terrify Frodo into giving it to him. And then essentially he tries to like snatch it. So you got a little bit of that in the movies, but obviously in the book it's much more flushed out. There's a lot more that happens. And you kind of see, and then you see that moment where like his character sort of snaps back, and I mean like not his character, not the book character. I mean the character of him as like his character sort of snaps back. And so when Aragorn, so he says his dying words to Aragorn, and then Aragorn sings the death song. I really would have loved to have heard that because Howard Shore is just, I mean, he nailed it so well on what you like. Before that, I don't think everybody had kind of an idea, but no one could really manifest what Middle Earth sounded like.
Yeah.
You know, like what that aesthetic would be. And Howard Shore was able to just deliver what, like, he brought it to life from the books. And it helped immerse you. Like that score helped pull you into the world. And it just, you couldn't imagine it being anything else, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I would have really loved to have seen, especially if Howard Shore had been involved, what would have come of that death song.
Yeah. Can I defend myself? Did you say that I would mind that?
Well, because
nope. Steve was the one who did it.
Was that Steve?
Like,
okay.
Hey, are you kidding me? I'm a musician.
My bad.
My soul is dying here. Why would I not write a song?
I'm sorry. Okay.
Without a song or a dance, what are we?
Amen. Okay. I couldn't remember. I'm sorry.
You falsely accused me.
I did.
Wow.
Shame. Mea culpa.
I thought mine and Arkasul's beef was intense.
I'm just like, oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought you said you were happy that wasn't. For some reason, I thought that you were the one that had said you were happy that wasn't translated to screen because you didn't know that it would translate very well. But that was Stieg, and I'm sorry.
Good old Stieg. He's always stirring up stuff.
Stieg just has a really, really high voice.
I was a Norwegian in about the 9th century. At least my ancestors were, but that's as close as I am to that.
That's so funny. All right, Ark. Last but not least, is there what aspect from the books or scene from the books that you wish was in the movies?
A scene from the books that has always made me laugh is Mary already knew that Bilbo had a magic ring that made him turn invisible.
Yeah.
And I wish that Mary had the chance to have some dialogue with Frodo and say, "Oh yeah, so you got Mr. Bilbo's magic ring, huh?" And then Frodo's like, "How do you know what this is?" It's like, "Oh, I saw him hide from some people walking along the road. He just put it on, he disappeared. The people walked by, he took it off, and there he was."
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted that, along with I've always wanted the time jump from when Frodo is 33 to then when he is, I believe, 57. 54,
Oh.
57? Which one is it?
Yep. You're talking about when he's waiting for Gandalf to come back, right?
Yeah, so
Yep.
it's 17 years. So he turns
17.
33.
Yep.
So yeah, add 17.
He's 50.
50.
Yep. No.
Mhm.
Teresa and I have discussed. Teresa knows how I feel about that. Oh, it's one of my least favorite things about the Jackson trilogy is that time contention.
Because you don't notice it in the trilogy. You do not notice. Everyone I talk to is like, there's a time jump. There's a decade and there's almost 2 decades of time jump between then and now, and they think that it's just the next day.
No, yeah, like at most, the most I've ever heard anyone else say who has not read the books, they're like, yeah, I thought it was just like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Because the way the movies work, it's like Gandalf rode to Minas Tirith to go, and to go read up on the One Ring because the knowledge had been lost. And
But this is
Well,
where
like-
Aragorn's quest comes in. This is
And-
where his quest to
yes.
find Gollum comes in. This is where Legolas becomes a key component because he failed to capture Gollum because Gollum was able to get out of the Elvish rope.
Yep.
What I wonder is how much of this was actually filmed. Because we talked about
Remember,
that, and
there
I've
was
been
that
telling her
article.
she needs to make a video on this.
There was an article.
There's supposedly Peter Jackson has said there's like 5-hour versions of Lord of the Rings out there. Why the heck Warner Brothers like why
because
New Line
Warner
Cinema,
Brothers-
whoever, why have they not jumped on this?
can
Like
answer
re-release it in theaters. You know how much money they make? I'd pay $50 for that movie ticket. I'd pay $150 for that movie ticket. How much would I not pay? I don't know.
Do you want to cry,
But-
Johnny? I can answer that. Do you want to cry?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Make me
Are
cry.
you sure?
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's been
Okay.
a long time since I cried, but go ahead.
All right. So, Peter Jackson filmed all of these pieces because, all right. So to lay just a little bit of groundwork, I think we can all agree that Tolkien is a master of subtlety, which has very large import on the rest of the story. Like, and it's a talent. It's a talent that is dying, if not dead. Right? Everything's on the nose now. Well, Warner Brothers felt that some of those scenes that Jackson thought were imperative, that Sir Christopher Lee thought were imperative, they said no.
So there is studio interference.
They said no because they didn't think that a screening audience, like a non-Tolkien fan, a non-book reader, would understand that subtlety, would pick up on that type of not even foreshadowing, but just immersion and world building. They thought that it was unnecessary. So Jackson made the proposal that when they did the director's cut, that they put it all in there. And Warner Brothers still said no. Because they were like, well, we'll give you the extended edition, but you're only like, they interfered with the extended edition as well. So there's still a Jackson director's cut that we don't have.
So it's probably their pride still, to be honest, is they're like, we told Peter this back in the day and we're going to hold to it, but there's so much money to be made. Just release it again.
Yeah, they
5-hour version. Let's freaking go.
I think that the runtime for each film, I think Fellowship would land at like 4 hours, 58 minutes. Two Towers lands at like 5:47. And Return of the King lands at like 5:52 or something like that.
I'm more than happy with that. Because we know they filmed like Eowyn and Faramir's wedding, and I need that because I ship them. I ship them, and also they showed stuff with Legolas and Gimli.
Yeah, they did. They did. They filmed those scenes. The Legolas and Gimli leave, and they go to the caves, and then Legolas finally goes and walks through Fangorn.
Yep, and Merry and Pippin go on an adventure. They go so in the books they go back out questing. That got filmed. Parts of that got filmed because it happens after Sam and Rosie's wedding, where they have, I think, baby 1 or 2, and then Merry and Pippin are like, we need to have some of our own adventures too.
Mhm.
And then they go off. So that has been like, that's confirmed. We've seen clips of that, of them going off on an adventure. Because they said, they were like, well, we don't want to be Bilbo where, 30 years from now, we've not done it and wish we had. And they're like, we need to have our own adventures. Right. And,
Look at
huh?
Ben in the chat.
What?
Release the Jackson cut. Okay, I'm
Oh,
not trying to
no.
motivate Lord of the Rings fans. No, what do you mean? Oh no! Oh yes! Release the Jackson cut. Why are Snyder Cut fans more passionate than us? Release the Jackson cut.
Here's the thing, Ben.
I'm ready for this to go viral.
Here's the thing, Ben.
If I'm
You heard it
passionate
here
about
first.
anything in
You
life,
heard it
it's
here
5-hour Lord of the Rings. Let's freaking go. Jackson cut.
I would be all for it, except you
What
do
do you
know
mean you would be all for? Sorry, go
because
ahead.
technically, officially, Warner Brothers says that doesn't exist. Those clips, that footage doesn't exist, or it's not. It's raw footage, so it's not edited, so it would be too expensive to like. I have to find it, but essentially, it's
Do
because
you
it's
work
like,
for Warner Brothers? Why
No,
do you-
Yeah,
what-
you know what? They said the same thing about the Snyder Cut. They said the same
I
thing.
know they did. I know this is common practice for WB. This is common practice for Warner Brothers. But Teresa and I we've talked about this like backstage with Stieg. Like Warner Brothers is sitting on so much raw footage of so many great IPs that if they would just render it and release it, they could be making hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars on properties that are more than 2 decades old.
Well, exactly.
But
I
they
get why they're
won't.
idiots. I'm trying to make them money. Release
Yeah,
it.
I was going to say, I mean, I would sell my family members to
Yes, thank you. That's the passion I'm talking about. Let's
Okay.
go.
I've got
like
letting you
4
know.
siblings.
I
You
am
can
just
have
letting
one,
you know,
okay?
Jackson. Here's the thing. There's a difference between Jackson and Snyder, though, as well, because all Jackson has said is, he's like, well, we've got some footage here and we've got some clips there, and we had a few things put together to sort of, fill out the story a little bit differently. But, you have to cut down, you have to trim for theatrical, and then you get the extended edition, and those were a large hit. But he's like, so not everything can make it, to the screen. He said, so of course there's a few scenes, but he just says like there's a few scenes that are not included. So he's making it sound like there's maybe like 10 or 15 minutes of footage.
Okay.
And
hang
so
on.
that like,
If there's-
as opposed to Snyder, who's like, there's like a whole hour and a half you guys haven't seen. Do you see
Okay.
the?
Yes, but I
I'm-
don't care if there's 2 scenes
Yeah.
or 242 scenes. There's more Lord of the Rings. Give
I
it to me.
agree with you, Johnny. I'm on your team. I'm just
I
letting
know.
you know there's a
Okay,
huge difference.
if you see
between
Johnny on
Snyder-
the evening news,
Yeah. Guys, I need help.
I'm taking on Warner Brothers.
Spend bail money
Wait,
now.
is anybody else like not used to Johnny doing stuff like this? Like I'm completely
Oh, yeah.
calm.
Yeah.
Well, you're calm. That's part of the problem. I need you. Release the Jackson cut. All right, I'll
Yeah.
calm down. I'm sorry.
It's like
She's
misery,
she's like
I mean,
slapping
did you
my
not-
leg.
it
Like,
will.
Did you not see
calm
what
down.
I did with Meta PCs the other day on Twitter?
Oh, that's right. You gotta.
Yeah.
Did you get their attention?
Yeah, we Epic Mike, Cthulhu's Alone, and myself. Yeah, we got their attention. We kicked up a hornet's nest. Yeah, I
That's
tagged
awesome.
enough people on Twitter.
That's awesome. Good. That's
So,
yeah. I
Do we just
saw
need to
that
do
and
that
I-
with Peter Jackson?
Yeah.
I think he's
okay.
Honestly,
he speaks for
I think
himself.
he
I don't
just-
want to go to jail.
Don't tempt
Right.
me.
I think Peter Jackson is currently just sitting back. Here is the thing. Warner Brothers is looking really good right now.
Yeah.
Even the Hobbit trilogy, which we're going to
Yes.
be perfectly honest, the Hobbit trilogy is not good. The Hobbit
No.
trilogy, okay, how can I-
Corporatism got in its way.
it did.
will stand
It's
by it.
Like that was also studio interference, and there was corporatism, and there was also like as much
Guillermo
as I
del
love as much
Toro
as
left, and they
Mhm.
they had to scramble to bring PJ back in because PJ was not supposed to be connected
No.
with the Hobbit. It was supposed
He's
to be
gonna be the
Guillermo.
producer.
Yeah. And so and that's the thing too is, it's really hard because as much as I love Our Lady, Tariel,
Oh, yeah.
her addition to the Hobbit trilogy, like the actual character itself is a complete lore-breaking undermining of Gimli and Legolas's relationship to the nth degree, and I've said that many times.
Well,
Out
it's
of all
annoying,
the
and Keely and or
Yes.
Philly or the hot guy from
Keely.
Poldark, whichever one he was.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Keely. But
Yeah.
yes, their romantic involvement and whatnot, it completely undermines and undercuts Legolas and Gimli's fellowship and fraternity and bond. And that is of all of the faults that the Hobbit has, the Hobbit trilogy has, that is the most egregious one for me.
Well, she's
Because
annoying.
it is, and it also directly conflicts with the actual Lord of the Rings trilogy itself. So that is something that's really hard to overlook. I mean, if I had to choose between Tauriel not being in The Hobbit and Legolas CGI running up stones that are falling, I would get rid of Tauriel. Like, I mean,
Wow. I know.
so-
I feel so guilty every time you say it because, when I think of Toriel, I think of our darling
know.
Toriel. And I know
Yes.
exactly what you mean.
and
Yes.
we love her.
Yeah,
but
nobody clipped that. This is not the real
Yeah.
Lady Toriel.
Yeah.
like her name. I love Our Lady Tauriel. Her namesake, I am not a fan of.
Yeah.
No, her name
But-
needs to die.
Because the thing is, after that happened, Jackson really just kind of I don't like, it's not like he went quiet. It's not like he was like became a hermit or anything like that. But he certainly dialed everything way back after
Yeah.
the backlash of The Hobbit. And then you find out that Amazon reached out to him and then ghosted him.
Mm-hmm.
And
To
he
be asked
has
for
to
his
be
script.
thanking his lucky stars that
I
that was
know.
the case.
Yep.
Because even his Hobbit trilogy, for all its faults, for the most part, remained true to the story. It was just very much Hollywood-fied. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind
You
of like
know-
when they say based on a true story, and
Yeah.
there's like explosions and guns and twirling, and you're like, I bet that didn't actually happen, but you never know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We were watching them last night, and it's like, and the way I chalk up The Hobbit is that they're not good. They're fun though. They're sweet. I can sit down and enjoy them. You know what I do with The Hobbit is I put them on for background noise when I'm working at home, and I'm just like, I need something kind of that I enjoy. That's but I don't have to sit there and pay attention to. So they're good background noise movies.
There's a few
Sorry, go ahead.
scenes. There's a few scenes that I'm gonna do something, because there are a few scenes. First of all, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind. By the way, I as much as I hate IMDb, I had to go and look it up. Jackson was not active so like he was already in with, so he did 5 armies, and then he did nothing for 4 years. And then he helped produce Mortal Instruments in 18, and then he went quiet until this year with the Beatles Get Back documentary. So he's doing a documentary. Like, it's not even fantasy anymore. That's how stepped back he's been. In the last decade, he's worked on 2 projects.
Yeah.
Like,
well, if
that
you see the way he looked during making The Hobbit, with the amount of studio interference, with the deadlines, like Lindsay Ellis made a good video on it, and I know a lot of people don't like her as a YouTuber now because of like how some of her garbage opinions are on just life stuff, but she made fantastic videos on it and interviewed some of the hobbits actually, who just said it was a nightmare. Like, it's the complete opposite of what the experience was for the cast on Lord of the Rings, where it was like this fun, we felt like a family. It was hell on earth making The Hobbit, and Peter Jackson was stressed out all the time. And so it kind of doesn't surprise me. Like, it feels like it looked like a man whose soul had left him, like a lot of times with some of the footage of him on set with The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Well, it's said that Ian McKellen kind of snapped on set. And
He
because
did.
he was just in front of a green screen. He had no other actors to bounce off of. He's like, I am an actor. I need other actors to act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He very much snapped. Like, it's well documented that it was actually because, like, the river scene too, they use you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, they used GoPro and blue screen for a lot of stuff. And this was the first, like, really starting to get into blue screen instead of green screen. And Ian McKellen was like, no. Even Christopher Lee was like, he goes, I can do a lot with almost nothing. He said, but this is literally nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you
This
talk
isn't-
about, sorry, go ahead, Lady G.
Oh no, no, you're fine.
If you talk about overarching themes of like what worked in Lord of the Rings and what didn't work in The Hobbit, one looked real and one didn't.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of how
It's
it
like
is.
literally
with The
what it
Hobbit.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Azog, the way he looked compared to Lurtz,
Ugh.
like
Oh.
it's not even close. Like
Mhm.
Not
one
even
is
close.
truly intimidating because he
And-
actually
and
looks like
here's the thing.
a real thing.
Yeah.
While the other
Here-
one looks like a video game character from an Xbox 360.
Here's the thing
You know?
about those two characters. Lurtz, completely made up. Azog is an actual established character that should not have been in The Hobbit.
No.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Though
Yeah.
I will say one of my favorite things in The Hobbit is the way that they say his name. Azog the Defiler. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be in here, but that I love the way you say it. Like, and this is so I have it muted and I didn't share my audio so that Warner Brothers cannot hit us on the audio, but by
Okay.
God, they might try, even though there's nothing there.
Yeah.
They're evil.
But they are evil.
What is
But
it we're
this
looking at?
is- So this is a scene from The Hobbit. It's one of my guilty pleasures. And so you know that intro that everybody's make the soap opera intro?
Can't figure out their cameras.
Um,
No.
The one that everybody's making fun of the trop where they're all turning
Yeah.
around.
Oh,
Oh, the-
yeah.
the-
with
Oh
the
yes,
fading.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
have
know.
no doubt that this is the scene that they
Oh,
were,
I know you're- yeah.
everybody loves this one. Let's steal from it. But this is one of my favorite scenes in The Hobbit where his face lights up and she turns around. That is, oh my gosh. Morfydd Clark is not Galadriel.
No,
like
she's not.
in any way, shape. I mean, look at that. There's just grace and poise,
Beauty.
femininity, etherealness.
Mhm.
She's a literal angel. And
You
at
know-
no point would you ever
Moonlight.
question if she was human because
Yeah.
there's no way she could be.
Yeah. Well, and here's what I'll say about the Hobbit trilogy. I watch it for the White Council scenes. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'll just go watch the scene, the scene where they go fight the necromancer, where they all show up and Elrond. I mean, I've got a clip of it. That's a clip that I give when someone gives a donation. Like, it's one of my favorite clips. Like, I literally watch the Hobbit trilogy for the White Council scenes. I'm not kidding.
Another one of my favorite Hobbit scenes is this is gonna sound so bad. It should shock no one that this is gonna be since the scene I want in the Lord of the Rings is the death song. I'm not gonna lie. Once again, the music you got like again for all of Hobbit's faults, the music, the score is incredible, and that Misty Mountain song. I need more of it. Like just straight into my veins. All
Yes.
like all the time. Just put it in there and let it go because it's so good. And that's the thing. It breaks my Amazon. I'm going to briefly touch on this. This is how you know Amazon knows what they're doing because Weta got bought out. And it shows. But they tried to gaslight people and say that they had Weta Workshop working on costume design, costume work, set pieces, and come to find out that it was the bought out version of Weta and not even, I think they had one person from that actually worked on some stuff on The Hobbit, not The Lord of the Rings. So like there's this whole shell game that's going on. But you know, if you look at, I can only imagine how much gray hair the execs at Amazon must have, because if Jackson was stressed about making The Hobbit as successful as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because he even said, like, you guys said it too, where he was like, he goes, they wanted the exact same delivery, the exact same result for The Hobbit that they got for the Lord of the Rings, but they were so much more involved and so much more restrictive with The Hobbit. So can you imagine being Amazon attempting to not even, because Amazon doesn't even have to try and hit Lord of the Rings trilogy standard. They can't even get to the Hobbit trilogy standard. That must be a different kind of stress level if you are an exec. For real. I cannot imagine, but Warner Brothers has made some foolish, in my humble opinion, very foolish business decisions that were very short-term gain for a very long-term loss. Much like Johnny was saying, please just like, I will watch. What is that?
15 hours?
15?
16?
That's 16 and a half hours of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I'll watch that.
Yeah.
How much money? Like, I don't know, babe. Like, I would chip in like $5,000 to get the. Like, I'm not even joking.
That's
like
one of your guns.
Okay. Fine, $10,000. Okay, I don't have anything that expensive. All right, like, yeah, that would. I don't know. Like, how much money would you like? At what point would you say no to get the 5.5 hour Lord of the Rings? Half my bank account? Like, come on, we need this. Like, let's go.
It just comes out and it's like 16 and a half hours of Lord of the Rings, the Jackson cut.
Produced by Johnny Arnett.
I mean, hey,
funded it.
there you go. That's something to pass on to your kids. Like, look what I did. Now you guys do something better.
Right?
Sure.
I just
Girl sitting there with
speaking
IVs
about-
of caffeine in us.
Hold on, real quickly, Ark. Heron of Alexandria. She said she got Trinity based off my recommendation. That is awesome. First of all, girl, you're gonna have to let me know if you like it because I'm kind of nervous to start it. Because again, being an art historian, I'm a little too close to the subject matter. But I've always heard it's good, so I definitely want to read it at some point. But please do let me know what you think of it. I would love to hear feedback on that. So sorry, Ark, go ahead.
Speaking on what Lady G was talking about, like how Galadriel looked, I wanted to point out two things.
You brought up a link.
There would be no Lord of the Rings without the orcs.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the orcs from Peter Jackson's trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Weta Workshop looks like or looked like back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm about to show you what the orc looked like in Rings of Power.
She can scissor orc. Yeah.
If
What?
it goes away,
No.
That's
Ooh.
yeah. Did you guys have you not watched it?
It is
but I'm not
muted.
going to.
It is muted. I have not shared the audio either, but this is just a still image.
Good Lord.
It's
Are
terrible.
you joking me?
No, he's got Edward Scissorfingers. He does. Like his fingernails are
No-
literally like
no
Edward
joke.
Are you
If
in
you
any
told
way?
me, like, do you think this is from Lord of the Rings or season 11 of The Walking Dead? I would be like,
are you
that
in-
is The Walking
Oh.
Dead, 100%.
Oh,
Like, when
Are
I
you in
saw-
any way interested in seeing a quick 10-second clip from this scene?
Sure. Yeah. Well, hold on real quickly. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Alasia, your Tolkien collection is impressive, but if Johnny gets the Jackson cut funded, I think he
Yeah.
wins the collection battle. This is
Sure.
true.
That's
Yeah,
what it's
Johnny,
going
you'll
to
have
take for me
statues
to
made
win
too.
that. By the way, we
Johnny
haven't
and
picked-
I'll probably have to combine forces on that. I think it
Yes.
would probably based on well, actually, you know what? I think, like I said, I think Jackson is feeling pretty good about himself right now. Based
Mhm.
on the he is probably counting his blessings that he got ghosted because could you imagine if his name
Oh, we're tied to
was
this?
attached
Oof.
to this? It would be atrocious. I mean, Shippy, like Tom Shippey being booted off set makes so much sense now.
Yep.
And
Yes.
like there's a whole lot of
You want to know what else makes sense, Lady G?
Mm.
What makes sense is in 2017, Christopher Tolkien was still alive. They made this deal. They didn't do anything until Christopher Tolkien died in
Died.
2020.
Oh yeah.
For 3
Yeah.
years, he was able to stonewall them, and for one more year, Tom Shippey was able to stonewall them.
Yep.
and
That makes sense.
and then what they claimed was that Tom Shippey broke NDA when he answered a question in an interview. That he broke NDA. He didn't. They just needed an excuse to get him out of the way because he was, like Ark said, literally preventing them from moving forward because he talked about how there's a lot of restrictions in the Second Age with the material that they are allowed to work within. He didn't say work with, he said that they were allowed to work within. So there's a lot that Amazon can't do. It would probably be easier to tell you what they can touch rather than what they couldn't touch. Because the way the interviewer asked the question was, well, we know that they don't have rights to the entire second age, so could you tell us some of the things we shouldn't expect to see? And then Shippy, of course, was like, well, there's a lot that they can't do because of the way the rights are situated, what they have access to. And he's like, it would be shorter to tell you what they can do rather than what they can't, because there's a lot of things that they can't do. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's essentially what his answer was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
and
may
it was
have gotten
true.
that. I may have flipped that around. It's been a minute since I've actually watched the interview or read it, but the fact that they took that as him giving out privileged information and breaking an NDA in order to fire him is one of the most evil things I've ever seen happen.
Mhm. Yeah, for
Really,
sure.
truly. Because it's obvious to anyone with two brain cells to rub together that they needed him out of the way, because he would have never allowed, I assure you, what I witnessed last night, Shippy would have never allowed it.
Yeah.
There is so his name's Theo.
Would you like me to? I'll take the bullet. I'll take the bullet in explaining it.
Well, I was just gonna say his blood can basically manifest. Like, I don't know if he's part Lich King. I have no idea what they're trying to get at there. But his blood can, like, manifest Morgul blades. Like,
I know.
yeah.
What?
I don't think that this is a Morgul blade. It does not have the same feel to it. I think that this very well could be like the blade of Sauron or something like that, like
Well,
a dagger
yeah,
of Sauron.
okay, but still, even if it was, even let's say that it was, it's still imbued with the same magic, the same, as they call it, necromancer magic. Why would because necromancy is the practice of raising the dead. So why would his blood have any effect on it whatsoever? Because you don't need blood in necromancy.
No, none. You don't need any.
It makes no sense.
My question is, why was it found at a farmhouse in the middle? And they
she's
don't
secretly a Morgoth.
Lady G, can you answer me a question that I've been having? Where in the world does this area take place? Because I know it's the Southlands, but when they show the map, it is the entirety of Gondor and into Mordor, and it borders Herod. So are we talking about Lower Ithilien?
It would have to be. It would have to be.
It would have to be Lower Ithilien.
Yeah, it'd have to be a Lower Ithilien. And because the thing, too, is, if you believe... Oh, Layers, are you ready for this?
All right, hit me with it.
Something. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
I was like, oh my gosh, how bad can it be?
I can like hear her fist hitting the desk.
I'm just... All right. Do you think that a series of tunnels, legitimate tunnels, like this isn't like Underground Railroad that was used as a like where they were actually looking for a legitimate Underground Railroad, and there was some stuff that happened underground, but it was like, different people's houses. It was
right.
Like, no, this is a legit tunnel that stretches
hundreds of miles.
Hundreds of miles.
It took them walking on the surface. Almost an entire, like, I would say, what, Lady G, 12 hours?
Yeah, something like that. A good
and
like,
that's at a brisk
trek.
Yes, at a brisk pace. 12 hours. I'm talking like maybe, like, I'd say 5 to 7 miles per hour walking speed.
Mm-hmm. And of course they have a lover spat on the way there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so wait, so there are tunnels. Wait, what is the scene like? What is the tunnel for?
It's to ambush towns from underneath them.
Mm-hmm. Orcs are tunneling under the ground, going to man villages.
Scissorhand orcs. For your confusion, they have. When I say, I am not kidding. When I say that they are Edward Scissorclaw orcs, like
you're about to see it right here.
Yeah, here, play the clip. Yeah.
So this is the scene. So to give you a little bit of background, oh god, I can't even think of his name. The black elf.
Arondir.
And Browin, the woman that he's in love with, they're the ones that went to this other town because this cow showed up and its udders produced this like black discharge.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think she's sick. And they're like, how
Oh,
far
you think?
Yeah. They're like, how far east did she go? Well, I think she only went as far as this other town that I can't even remember because it's literally just there to move the plot forward. They show up. It's in ash. This thing is like, the town is on fire. They should have been able to see the smoke even from their town because that's how tall this column of smoke would be. But no, so there's no bodies, no nothing. They happen upon the tunnel. Arondir, he jumps down into the hole and he's like, I have to go the other way. I have to see where it leads, right? And I'm like, no, you don't. This is you're an idiot. Like, what kind of strategist are you? You do not jump down in a hole when you have no idea what's down there, what made this thing, or where it goes. But he's like, you don't know where, and she says that. She's like, you don't know where it goes. And he's like, that's why I have to go. And I'm like, no, that is exactly why you don't go. Exactly why you don't go, you dodo brain. Anyway, so
that is literally the only thing that he did in the entire series is he said, I'm going to go this way. That's it.
And then he did. Oh, I'm not even gonna get into that. So he's like, you need to go warn the others. She then we're supposed to believe that she's able to sprint the entire way back to her village. Her village, which is 12 hours away. And then she runs into, I don't think it's her father, but it's like he's a butcher. He's at the butcher block.
Yeah.
And she's like, the town, it's gone. There's no bodies. And he's like, we've no proof. I'm not going to do anything. That's this scene right here. So the orcs have already come. There's tunnels underneath this town. And it hasn't caused anything. No foundations have shifted.
They think that it's rats under the floorboard scratching.
Oh, brother.
They think it's rats. Right? And so, God. And
I'm so glad we're not watching this.
Go ahead, Ark. Show them the clip. Because, oh, by the way, she's hiding in a closet, breathing like
really heavily.
Like, I kid you not. She's like, it's so bad.
I'm going to stop sharing for one quick second.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
and I'm going. No. It's all good. There we go. Like that'll work. There we go. That's a good way. There we go. Perfect. Share the screen. No audio. None.
Amazon won't care.
All right.
You ain't getting me for none of this. Okay, so you see how he is in this little cubby hole? That's his mom right there. There's a gigantic hole right here. See the scratching, the orcs trying to get to him.
But couldn't figure out to just pull the door open. Also, when she walks in, she walks up to the gaping hole and she screams down into it.
Screams down into it.
Screams into it.
The level of stupidity in this description is just like making my head hurt.
Feels like, go get help. Go get help. And she's like, okay. And then
Theo closes the door on his mom. Just closes the door. Like, I'm not dealing with this. My mother's going to be eaten by an orc. I don't care. I'm closing the door.
What is he?
She
Is his
looks
name
at the
Damien?
open door. She could go get help. She then decides.
She's like, I'm not going to leave my son. So I'm going to hide in a cabinet.
So rather than get a weapon and stab, because this is can you pause?
Pause
I'll
it
go back
again,
really
Ark.
quick. Sorry.
Careful, guys. It's a long clip.
This is what's known. I know it's going to be like impossible to land on again. But that hole is what is known in strategy in battle. That is called a bottleneck. It's in 300. That's what that's the strategy there. Like this is a choke point. This is a bottleneck. They have to come out of this hole. They have to. So why would you not just be standing there with a weapon and
ready
kill
to
it,
bash their head in?
Right? Bash their head in, stab them, do whatever. But no, let's hide in the closet rather than wait and use the terrain, use the situation to our advantage. No, we're going to hide in a closet.
Hiding in a closet. We saw this in the trailer. This is how bad those trailers were. They gave away the entire plot of the second episode. This is in the trailer. We're going to keep going. She's all scared. We see this in the trailer. We see that in the trailer.
That's what's
It's
this
a
is what dug the
velociraptor.
tunnels,
It is Velociraptor.
right? And now he's like slow creeping up out of the hole, and you're like, but why?
What
Like-
the hell?
All right, go
It
ahead
doesn't
and
make-
pause it so we don't get Alasia's channel taken down.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Good
her video
Lord.
stream.
it's like that's what supposedly dug the tunnel, and then
We're giving commentary and we're critiquing it, so like we'll just
Yeah,
have
but
to
you know how
contact
they
Ryan.
are. It's a long.
We
clip
just
of
contact
it.
Ryan Kindle and we get his, and then that's all.
Right.
That's all we
But-
do.
right. Well,
But like,
and,
she is hiding in a cabinet. Her son is hiding in a cubby. There is a gigantic orc in her house that came out of a tunnel that makes no sense on how it was dug. All those, because the Theo was complaining about the rats and how he couldn't sleep.
oh my god!
for
Wait,
the
wait, wait! I'm
longest
so
time.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I was looking for something else entirely. You have
Uh-huh.
to Lage.
What?
Oh my god! Please share my screen.
All right.
Amazon Prime halts user ratings for Rings of Power after series suffers review.
Yeah, have you
bombing.
not
Oh yeah,
seen-
we were
I
talking
didn't
about
see that.
earlier.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh my
Gary
God.
tweeted that out. Yeah,
I've been
no,
doing.
Mhm.
I've been
Yeah, we were
doing
talking
like
about
a
that.
whole bunch of other stuff, like
Yeah.
in real life
It's
stuff.
not just that. It's not just that. What happened before that happened? What happened before Amazon Prime did this? Rotten Tomatoes was deleting reviews.
Yeah.
They were deleting reviews. So everyone went over to Amazon Prime and started leaving reviews there. They halted
Mhm.
the reviews
Oh
for this show.
my.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
sweet, sweet justice, divine
Mhm.
justice. This is what you get. This
Yep.
is what you get, Amazon.
Mhm.
Like, I tactically acquired my viewing, which, granted, led to some issues. Because that stuff likes to skip around, so you have to like rewind and go back.
Yeah.
But
Share my screen
Um,
again, Alicia.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
sorry, but yeah. So this right here, is it Aaron? How do you say his name? Aaron.
Arondir.
Oh my god, the rolling of the R's in this series, by the way, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that whoever is in charge of dialect
Mhm.
coaching is apparently Australian, and they need to stop right now. Like,
So they're all
Not that there's
cowering.
anything wrong with being Australian.
And also
Yeah.
the
No, nothing
music.
wrong being
The
Australian.
music for this scene is absolutely horrible. By
it
the way,
really is. So they tried to say that Howard Shore helped or like was involved in the music making or like in the scoring of this series. I
Uh-huh.
don't believe that for a second because it doesn't sound anything aesthetically close to what
the only
we
thing
would-
that Howard Shore was connected with was the opening scene. He did the opening intro. That is it.
Listen,
Everything
I'm
else
gonna
is Bear McCreary.
I'm gonna take it a step back though, because if we're gonna say there's nothing wrong with being Australian, there is if you're in Middle Earth. All right,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
hear about the land
Yeah.
down
So,
under.
I was
When I'm
being
watching
nice
Lord of
for
the Rings,
Australians.
Lyndon
why
and
don't you
Lethal can
skip-
fight me on that one. I don't want it sounding
Well, they
Australian.
got Irish people too, and they're apparently
Ooh.
treating them like what famine cosplay.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was a-
Mhm.
Uh-huh. It's bad.
So, Ark, if you just want to skip to the end, like where they do the thing, where
I would-
she's like, "Here's your proof" or whatever. Okay, yeah. By the way, he still looks.
Do you see that? Did you see that?
Yep.
You caught how crappy that table
The
flip was,
wire
right?
work
Yeah.
was, yeah.
I'm gonna wait 10 seconds and then just rewind it.
Like, no, the thing is, also she throws like a girl. This thing has been stabbed twice. Like she stabs it with its own blade. FY.
Yep.
Like she impales the sucker through the spine, and he's still growling. Like,
Well,
but
and
if you
didn't
skip, oh, right there, right. Oh, hold on.
It's gonna be
Oh.
kind of wonky.
didn't everyone say that this was the most gory scene in the whole thing?
Yeah.
That like literally a woman got the most intense scene. This doesn't even look like an orc. He's not. Oh my god.
No, he looks like a burn victim.
Okay,
from,
I want
like,
you to
the
pay
Slenderman.
attention. I want you to pay attention to this edit. I want you to pay attention. Is everybody ready? I'm gonna say 3, 2, 1, go, and then we're gonna start. 3,
Okay.
2, 1, go. Did you
Yeah.
see that edit?
What the heck?
Yeah.
Wow, that is terrible.
Those
by the
type of
way,
edits are
awful.
riddled throughout the entirety of the
Yes.
first two episodes.
This is
God,
the
that is
whole
just
first 2 episodes. And also,
terrible.
can I point out? I pointed this out in my review as well. She slammed it down on a butcher block, like he's carving meat on it right now, and she
Oh.
slams a decapitated orc head down on where he's chopping up people's food.
Lovely.
Just
She,
did
she
FYI.
had to make a point. Strong
Yeah.
woman. Maybe if
Also-
you were a strong woman, Lady G, you would understand.
I'll
Oh,
stand over here and be
God.
weak and feminine then, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't want this. But the thing too is right there, she slams the decapitated head down and she's like, "We make for the Elven Tower. Any who wish to live, we leave at first light." And I'm like, why would you leave at first light? You
Yeah.
just decapitated an orc in your house. Why would you not be like, 5 minutes, take whatever you can carry, get your kids,
Yeah,
and
we're leaving.
GTFO? Like, what is this obsession? It's like orcs do not need to wait till first light. Orcs don't need the light. Like, what
Yeah.
what are you doing? What are you doing? But Arendir, at first I was like, hey, you know what? He's actually the least terrible out of all the characters. But then he was just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, no, Layers, you don't understand. So we have Brownwind shouting down into a hole with unknown enemies in it, right? Where there's claw marks all over her house, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has no idea. Also, it doesn't explain why the orcs got back in the hole when they made one scrape on the wall when they couldn't get to Theo, and then they're like, okay, we're done. They don't explain that. Like, they just sort of gave up on trying to get him out of the little cubby hole. Right?
And every single time we see orcs in The Hobbit, even the 1977 Hobbit holiday special, in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, every time we see a goblin, they're always fast. They're always very, very agile. They know what they want to do, and they always want to cause harm. They want to cause it as fast as possible. This orc was like, I'm just going to get up and stretch. I'm going to sniff the air. And
I'm going to lick my lips.
Then I'm going to get my head chopped off.
Well, no, because, like, and yeah, the thing is, like, Arendir is supposed to be like this. He's supposed to be this incredible soldier. He's growing a fondness for humans, which is why he's willing to apparently jump down into this tunnel and run the wrong way. But then I was like, okay, I can forgive you for that. Like, so basically he's abandoned the elves who've been watching this city because they're in the Southland, right? These are all still supporters of Morgoth, of Sauron, right? So they are there to keep an eye on these people to make sure they don't do it again. So they get a note. They get a notice. They're like, oh, we've been called back home. So Arendir's like, yeah, no, I'm going to stay. I'm going to chill with my woman. I'm going to risk banishment and death. And it'll be fine. And I'm like, all right, okay, well, whatever.
But actually, hold on, Lady G. The elves didn't want him to go to the healer. He specifically states when he goes to the farmhouse before the cow is brought up that they're looking for me right now.
Yeah, I know. That's what I say. Like, he's guilty of treason currently.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
He jumps down into this tunnel. Maybe he's like, oh, well, if I go back, I'm just going to get thrown in prison, so maybe it's better to just get eaten with whatever's in this tunnel. He crawls into this... Oh, go ahead.
In the trailer, you see the aftermath of the tunnel. Now go ahead, Lady G.
You know why he gets pulled into that wall in the trailer, Lage? I'm assuming you've seen the trailer scene, right? Where these hands come out of these vines and they grab him and they pull him back.
No.
You've not seen that?
Oh,
all right.
Lucky.
I just stopped watching after.
Let me explain. The reason that he is able to get sucked into a vine wall, because it's a passage behind him. So he's going through this tunnel. These other Edward Scissorhand orcs are in the tunnel. He hears them coming. He shoves through this like impossibly tiny space. He goes headfirst into water and he swims up. He comes up the other side, right? He goes up this incline, which clearly leads, and it's the incline it's covered with vines, the rest of the entrance. So he goes up this incline in this tiny little like hovel, and he sees the bubbles coming up behind him, letting him know that there's something down there with air, right?
I bet you that was
But
the
he-
outhouse.
But he didn't clear the area behind him. He went up this little incline and he's like, oh, like vines, roots. I'll just put my back up to these things that I can't see through, that I can't look for, that are obviously good cover for anything that would want to hide. And I'm going to wait and see if anything jumps out of this hole after me. And then he gets sucked into the vines. And I'm like, you are an idiot, sir. Like, I
One
hate
of the
you
last
because-
things that I want to talk about the Rings of Power, I'm going to include it in my review as well, but I would like to share it here. I noticed many, many, many callbacks to The Hobbit, the Peter Jackson's The Hobbit, and Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. I noticed many similarities. First of all, the opening prologue where you have the elves fighting the orcs on that
Morphin
massive
Clark.
battlefield.
Morphin Clark doing the
Morphin Clark doing the narration.
Yeah.
But this reminded me of the entrance to Goblin Town when they're on the porch, the front porch.
Mhm. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
one particular
So,
scene.
to sum up, don't watch Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Watch people's reviews on it to let you know why. And also, just can we please get the Jackson cut?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
Can we get the Jackson cut? That'd be very nice. I would pay good money for it. Like, I don't even think they realize if Warner Brothers just came out and was like, hey, we're gonna put 15 hours of footage, 16 and a half hours of footage of Lord of the Rings in theaters for one weekend only.
Yeah.
I think
mean,
$100 a ticket would be nice.
yeah, like at
Yeah.
$100 a ticket, they would make so
They'd make
much
bank. They'd
money.
make bank. Yeah.
But yeah, I am all for the Jackson cut. I
Yeah.
hope and pray it actually exists. Jackson, like I said, he doesn't
I
he
think
doesn't make
he's
it sound like there's a lot there, and according to Warner Brothers, there's nothing.
I think that Jackson is happy with what he made
Yeah.
and what was published.
Ark, I'm gonna fight you. I'm gonna fight you, Ark.
Fight him on another
You
stream.
need to join me on this one, Ark.
We must stand together.
Yeah.
Let this be the hour
A
that we
house
draw
divided
swords.
cannot stand. Get with me, brother. Okay, we need to get this Jackson cut.
Yeah,
It's just
I've
like-
already offered to sell all my living relatives, so
You are on my side. I got
Yes.
you, but we need a fellowship, and Ark is kissing me off. He's acting a little Boromir-ish, okay?
It's like, listen, bruh, listen. I'm gonna grab you by the back of your neck, and I'm gonna apply just a little bit of pressure. Get on board.
Get on
Yes.
board.
There you go. All right. Well, we've kind of been here, there, and everywhere with this stream, but I'm happy we've talked about the things that we've talked about. I would like to end because I want to be conscious of y'all's time. I want to end on what impact Tolkien had on your guys' lives. I know the impact he had on mine. People have heard me say it, but I will say mine again. But like, I would like to know like what Tolkien did for you personally, if you'd be willing to share. So, Ark, you know what? We'll start with you.
Why did you have to start with me this time? I would love to go last.
Okay. All right. Well, never mind.
that's karma for complaining.
There you go.
I
Right, exactly.
never once
Volunteer.
Darned
complained.
if you do, darned if you don't.
Okay,
ladies.
I'll go first.
All right. Go ahead.
So the impact that Tolkien has had on my life is number one. It has brought my oldest brother and myself very, very close.
Yeah.
It has been a great pastime of ours to not only quote the books, but also to talk about passages from the books and about how cool they are, and then also to talk about the movies. But one of the things that has popped up very recently is my love of Tolkien has brought all of you to me and brought me to all of you.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I greatly appreciate that. I didn't think that this was possible. If you had told me a year ago that I would be on a podcast talking about my love of Tolkien with other fellow Tolkien enthusiasts, I would have called you a liar. And I want to say that the Tolkien fandom is never been stronger. It has never been stronger. It has never been more beautiful. And I love all of you. I love all of you in chat and everyone that watches this VOD and is a Tolkien enthusiast. I thank you for standing up for Tolkien in this very, very crucial time.
Yep.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Miss Martin Muse, what about you? What impact did Tolkien have on your life?
Yeah, you see, that's a that's a tricky one. I wouldn't say Tolkien, of course, but Tolkien's work, because I don't know that guy. I mean, he probably would have thought I was a loud American.
Yeah,
but,
most likely.
Yeah. Well, I've got into a little more detail, probably in a more appropriate forum for this on my own channel. But it's inseparable with my faith, and to see such a perfect manifestation of the faith and grace and what we believe about eternal life and salvation and grace and the communion of saints, all of that, which is so perfectly manifest in it, and the using the imagination, what we sometimes call like baptizing the imagination for the glory of God. That we have in our tradition great art. Go holy moly, if you ever get a chance to see the Sistine Chapel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's painted. This is the Sistine Chapel in a story. And stories are sacred because at the end of the day, myth, well, Tolkien himself said that myth is true, and the whole thing about the faith and Jesus and all that is it's a true myth. So that's the difference. That's the only difference. I mean, everyone has truth into it. So that's all wrapped up into what this story means to me and how sacred it is. And to look at a little bit what Ark says is how it's brought some friendships together long before some of you were even born. That's what it was for me.
For sure.
I've had the honor of I've directed productions, some drama productions of this work, and I've conducted the music, as I've already said. It's like within my very soul, and what I feel about beauty, and in this stage in my life, in 2021, it brought someone very special into my life, who's to my left.
Oh,
to my right,
please.
to my left,
Yeah.
because Lady Gravemaster, I invited you on to our book streams. Well, I'd met you on Father Miller's, of course.
Yes,
but that the very special time when we went through the entire work. So it's okay. Well, and Father was inspired also, that faith and fantasy. He always has Gandalf on there. So that's what this means to me.
That's really beautiful. Well said, lady. Miss Martin, sorry.
I'm a lady too.
Well, she's a lady too.
Well, technically, I'm a rose.
lady.
I only have rose petals and I float.
She has a claim on lady now. she takes lady from every woman ever.
'Tis all mine. No, I would never do such a thing.
All right, Lady G, what about you?
I don't think anybody could follow that. That was incredible, and also humbling. I appreciate it too, because it did help me find Miss Martin and Steve and Lage. Honestly, you and I, it was because of this. So, and not this this stream, but because of Tolkien's works. And I think that is something that Amazon especially fundamentally misunderstands. And what I can only imagine a comparison would be that would actually sink in with someone like Jeff Bezos is if someone took over Amazon who was much more communist leaning and decided that they were going to not go for profits, not go for delivery, not go for what Amazon has been about, which is, the Prime memberships, the sales, the using the algorithm to have your money make money for you, essentially. But I think if someone were to come in and rip that to shreds in front of Jeff Bezos, he may get a glimmer of what Amazon's attempt at a Tolkien IP adaptation is to fans, essentially.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I tweeted, I did use the F word, I'm sorry, Miss Martin, but it was in response to one of Gary's tweets. He said that Amazon effed up Lord of the Rings. And I said, no, they effed up their shot at an interpretation
Yes.
Mhm.
of a Lord of the Rings IP.
Yes.
Yep.
And this is on them. This isn't going to be remembered any more or less, I think, than the animated Lord of the Rings from like the 70s and 80s. I can't remember if it was 70s or 80s when that was made, but that seldom gets brought up. It certainly is not heralded as a authentic interpretation of Tolkien's work
Mhm.
at all. Or even a decent interpretation. And I genuinely believe that from everything we've witnessed, the same is true for Amazon's Trop. This is
Oh, we lost her.
but this is on them.
It was
This
so
is their
profound.
stuff. Uh-oh, did I drop?
Yeah, you dropped for a
bit,
second.
yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, sorry, I was just saying that like this was their one shot and they blew it just like they blew it with Wheel of Time.
Yep.
I mean, Wheel of Time fandom may be smaller. I happen to love those books. That story, it's incredible. It may be smaller, but Wheel of Time fans, I mean, nobody even talks about it, the series anymore. Anytime Wheel of Time gets brought up, it's about the books. And Amazon pulled the same thing. They had a cover of Wheel of Time for Eye of the World with their logo and everything. And then it just disappeared. It like vanished. It's like almost impossible to find it now.
Yeah.
And Amazon did the same thing where they put their posters on the covers of the Lord of the Rings trilogy because they're intentionally trying to tie their work to that trilogy because they know that what they have can't stand on its own merits. So they have to legitimately this what Amazon is doing is a legitimate grift because they are using Tolkien's name, Tolkien's life work, and everything like that in order to sell their property. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it makes me feel like much less of a dork when I say that what Tolkien's work did for me was it showed me that fantasy did not have to be prince, princess, dragon. Granted, there are princes, there are princesses, and there are dragons.
Yeah, but not in that order.
Not in that order.
But there are also hobbits.
There are also hobbits, yes. And so it's it opened up really my love for fantasy and escapism as a whole. And it's been kind of what I measure pretty much everything by. And nothing quite measures up, but there were a few things that got close. And you know, I was saying this last night on my review of the first 2 episodes, but essentially, if you can't read Tolkien and Lewis and Sanderson and Lackey and even
Jordan
Feist,
and
Jordan,
Pratchett.
Yeah, Pratchett. If you can't read these authors and be inspired by the creativity and the immersion and the world building and the timeless messaging, and just the incredible storytelling that just transcends basic, mundane, shallow concepts of who we present to the world as who we are, and actually touches your soul and reaches that part of you that we all look for. If that doesn't inspire you to create something of your own, or at the very least to support the creation of something that is greater than yourself, then you have fallen into bitterness and turmoil, and your heart and soul have been hardened, and I genuinely pity you.
Yeah, for sure.
Well said.
Yeah, well said. What about you, babe?
I mean, I'll try to make it quick, but with my family, it's just a unifying force. Like with every one of my family members, like we have a unique personalities. My brothers, my sisters, my dad, my mom. We're all very different people when it comes to our interests, except Lord of the Rings. Like that is that. Like my dad knows the lore like the back of his hand. My mom, like she decorates the whole house. Lord of the Rings, and for when they released The Hobbit, they did a Hobbit party, and literally each room of the house was different sections of Middle Earth, and they just did up the whole house. Like, and my little brother was was Gollum, sorry, and it was so yeah. It's this cool thing that just will always bond us. We'll always be able to talk about that. I'm not with you. I mean, I'm not. She doesn't like basketball. She doesn't like Nintendo. I paid attention to your channel. Well, you didn't back then.
Well, this is true.
And I started paying attention to your channel because of Lord of the Rings, because of Tolkien. We shared that interest. So
how do you not like basketball?
Yeah,
I'm not a sports person in any way, shape, or
I
form.
only recently started caring about basketball, and it's because of Johnny's
she's
channel.
supporting my channel. Yeah. But anyway, yes, Tolkien brought me you, my girlfriend, and eventually more. So yeah.
Well, that's just downright romantic.
I know, right?
Just saying it like it is.
Well, like literally, I call him my Aragorn. So.
Oh God, no! You'll air this out.
That's so sweet.
Oh, it's the sweetest.
The women get it, yeah. And the guys are gonna be like, "Okay, Aragorn." Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling you that now.
If anyone does, I will tie them out.
Including Ark.
My husband would definitely be more of an Aemir. I mean, I love Aragorn, but like my hubby is definitely more of a. He's like a combo, I guess, of Aragorn and Aemir. It's so funny too because like one of the biggest complaints I hear about people who've never read the books and have maybe watched the movies once or twice in their life, they're like, the names are all the same, and I'm like, no, not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah.
The problem
Johnny's
is they're
starving,
not
and
the
we
same.
don't.
We have one more person, Alasia.
Yeah. Okay. So Tolkien. I've said this before. It's nothing too terribly new, but Tolkien inspired me to go into higher education. I wanted to be a professor of Anglo-Saxon literature back in the day. Didn't happen because my dyslexia made me too fearful of learning Anglo-Saxon and Latin. So I backed off of that. And I went a different path, but like definitely Tolkien is who inspired me to go on to get my master's, to get my PhD, which I did bow out of. I've discussed this, but like he turned me into like a bookworm, and not just like a bookworm for fantasy, of history, of literature, like of all these things, like Tolkien, because like my dyslexia was so crippling for so many years. But then when I read C.S. Lewis and I read Tolkien, and then I read Jane Austen, and then I read Jane Eyre. I just kept on and on and on. So Tolkien opened up a world of reading that I don't know if I would have had otherwise. And then, got me this guy. So, but my love of literature, my love of learning, I know I chalk that up to Tolkien. So,
I have to. It took everything in me not to squeal. Like, are you serious when you said it? You're dyslexic too?
Yeah, did you know that lady? I'm very dyslexic.
So am I.
Very dyslexic. Yeah. Reading out loud is hell for me.
Yeah, my first grade teacher tried to, when they still did this, like have me committed. Because she thought I was legitimately.
Yeah. No, my teacher.
That's horrible.
My teacher said that they would put me in with the severely mentally challenged kids, like the kids in the wheelchairs who like literally can't talk. She told my mom that I was going to be put in with them, and she literally said to my mom, "Don't worry, it doesn't mean anything. We just get more money." That's all I was to them, was dollar signs. So my mom yanked me and homeschooled me and taught me how to read. So,
Go mom.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
My mom couldn't do that, unfortunately. Yeah. There's a whole bit behind that. But I didn't see my first grade teacher again for the last part of the school year. But also, I guess I have to chalk it up to her. I very much, because she told me that I would amount to nothing, and that I would, just all of the things, all of the
Telling
most
a
terrible things
child
you could
that?
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the most terrible things you could say to a 6-year-old. Yeah.
Wow.
She said them and then some. And then yeah, I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna not listen to you and I'm gonna read absolutely everything. So it was really more out of spite.
Yeah.
And then I
That's a
found
motivator.
yeah. And so but then my second grade teacher was incredible and she turned it into like a love for reading, and I'll never forget the first book that I was able to read on my own without like really just struggling super hard was Shiloh.
Interesting. Mine was C.S. Lewis. Mine was Magician's Nephew.
Nice.
So
Aw.
yeah. Anyways, well, all right. I'd like to end it here because again, I know I want to
Yeah,
be respectful
sorry.
of everyone's time. No, girl, you're fine. You're fine. Again, I definitely want to have some more reading streams because I think that would be cool. So,
It's been
Mhm.
fun.
yeah, though this has been great. Thank you guys for coming on. I'm glad we could get some of your guys' grievances out there about someone, I think it was Brian, coined literally calling the Rings of Power RIP. So I'm just that's what I'm gonna call it from now on. RIP. But also talk about why we love Tolkien and the movies and the books and all that. So thank you guys so much for coming on. I want to say hail to the chat. You guys were awesome as always. I'm sorry I wasn't able to interact with everyone's comments, but I did see them all. You guys are awesome as always. And I'm so glad to see so many people just like, this is why I love Tolkien. And I see you guys like, it's really cool to see so many people, passionate for Tolkien and saying like why we love him. Because I think we need to remember to do that from time to time. We need to say why we love something and not just why we hate something. So I definitely enjoy doing with you guys. So yeah. Do you have anything to add, babe? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to end it there. Thank you guys again so much for coming. Does anyone need or want to shout anything out before we say goodnight?
I'm Miss Music. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, do I need to? Do I want to? Tomorrow, the Sword of Shannara returns book discussion on my YouTube channel. Miss Gravemaster often shows up. And so, the whole gang, we were on a 2-week break because we could. And so please come and join us. And if you've not read it, read it up and join us.
Cool. All right.
Yes.
Ark?
Read all, what is it, 21 chapters?
No, we're up to 16, 17, 18. But catch us later.
Yeah,
You can catch us on the replay.
Yeah. Ark, what were you going to say?
So for my shout outs, like as always, you can find me on Twitch at Arkasul, and then you can also find me on YouTube at Arkasul. I hope that the link works, like you just type it in, you can find my YouTube now. I am going to be doing 2 reviews, one over episode 1 and one over episode 2 of the Rest in Peace Rings of Power.
Nice.
It's disgusting. The first review is probably going to be about 35 to 40 minutes long.
Wow.
And it's ridiculous. There's so much. There's very little good that I can say about this. There is so much bad, and I will be going in depth on why it's bad and why I think that this show will be trash, and it's just going to continue to be trash no matter if they actually do 5 seasons or not.
Yeah.
So look forward to that tomorrow. I will be recording that tonight.
Nice. Lady G, anything you want to shout out?
Subscribe to all these lovely people on the panel. Johnny and Alasia, Ark, Miss Martin. They're all amazing. They all do fantastic stuff. They're all worth it. And they're definitely worth the sub. But
you can also follow me on Twitter at Arkasul because I'll keep you up to date more on Twitter. Sorry.
Nice.
There you go. Yeah, do that. Give them all a follow. My plan is to go live after the episodes, which I did last night. And I gave sort of just my initial review. I plan to do more polished reviews, but it's going to be a matter of if I have the time. Because like I said, there's a lot of real life stuff going on. So I'll attempt to get more polished reviews out, but I will definitely have live reviews following the episode. And if I could say anything, it would be to, if you are not a if you are not a visual reader, if you struggle with reading, the audiobooks, oh gosh, I just had his name in my brain.
Andy Serkis.
Thank you.
Yes.
Like, Lage, I'm so glad you can read my mind. Andy Serkis's audiobook
Oh, so good.
Is utterly incredible. It's everything. I use this unironically when I say it is breathtakingly fantastic.
Yep.
It is so good. It's an excellent, especially if you have long commutes to work or you have it's Memorial Day if you've got to drive to, or Labor Day weekend, excuse me. It's Labor Day weekend, so if you've got a long drive to go to vacation or something, I mean, the Andy Serkis audiobook is well worth the investment.
Oh yeah.
So I would give that a try, and otherwise, I know Johnny will back me up on this. Just get the extended edition of The Lord of the Rings and spend the weekend watching it. You will not regret it. It will be a Labor Day well spent.
Yes.
Much love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're all right. We're going to end it there. Thank you guys so much for sticking around for so long. I deeply appreciate all of you. And I don't really know what's happening with my Monday stream, so just watch my Twitter. We'll see what happens there. So
yeah, and on your Twitter, you will announce the bragging rights of sorts, Lord of the Rings.
Yes, we're gonna. Johnny and I are gonna do a bragging rights esque Lord of the Rings memorabilia stream, and that is coming later this month. So keep an eye out for that. We're very excited. We have things to show off. So, anyways, all right. Good night. Love you all. And we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Yay.
Bye.